Deputy Minister of Basic Education. The Minister for Agriculture and the Deputy Minister will be joining us a little later. All MECs who are here, as well as special delegates and SALGA representatives to the House. Honourable delegates, I've been informed that there will be no notices of motion or motions without notice today. We shall now proceed with the first order, policy debate on the Budget Vote 16, Basic Education Appropriation Bill B16 of 2025. It now gives me great pleasure to call upon the Honourable Gwarube, Minister of Basic Education, to open the debate for 20 minutes. Honourable Minister.
House Chair, Honourable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honourable Members and Special Delegates, MECs for Education, my colleagues, Basic Education sector colleagues who are here with us, and fellow South Africans, a very good afternoon. Honourable Members, the NCOP plays an incredibly important role between strengthening the link between national policy and provincial delivery. Basic education is a concurrent function, and the success of our national priorities depends on effective implementation by provinces. This House is uniquely positioned to help us ensure that provincial departments are supported, monitored, and held accountable, not only in budgeting, but in service delivery to every learner across South Africa. It is for this reason that the department, the Deputy Minister, Dr. Mhaule, and I welcome the opportunity to table the 2025-2026 budget vote. I do want to hasten to add, Honourable Chairperson, that the Deputy Minister has had a bereavement and will be joining us virtually. Honourable Members, our journey in education is much like the growth of one of South Africa's powerful heritage symbols, the baobab tree. Like the baobab tree, our education system must stand firm, rooted in deeply strong foundations and built to thrive. It must nurture, develop, and protect our young people. As a baobab endures the harshest climates, our education system must too be resilient, storing up the resources to weather the storms and bloom with purpose. Today, as I reflect on the strong foundations we've laid over the past year to ensure that our education system is rooted in the purpose of serving the 13.5 million learners, I'm reminded of one of them, Siviwe Gwarube, who's here today as a grade 10 learner who joins us in the gallery today. His future, like that of millions of others, depends on the quality of education that we provide. It is a responsibility that I carry with humility and unwavering purpose. Almost a year ago, we stood before this House and committed to 5 key priorities. Number 1, expanding access to quality early child development. Number 2, strengthening literacy, numeracy, especially in the foundation phase. Number 3, advancing inclusive education. Number 4, enhancing teacher training and school leadership development. And number 5, improving safety and quality of school environments. These are not just abstract commitments, Honourable Member. They must be supported by evidence, rooted in the values of our Constitution and grounded in policy, budget and delivery. And so over the past year, we've made some encouraging progress, laying the foundation for these priorities. In September 2024, I undertook a national listening and learning tour, meeting with provincial leaders, visiting over 50 schools to hear directly from principals, from teachers, from learners and parents. I have truly wrapped my arms around the sector. From the 2018 SAFE audit, I announced in April that 96% of identified pit toilets have now been eradicated. I'm happy to announce that this has now increased to 97%. But I will not rest until we achieve 100%. This is about dignity. This is about safety, especially for our most vulnerable learners. In November 2024, I convened 100 private sector leaders through Partnerships and Education Initiative, a collaborative effort that is already bearing fruit. One such example is the donation of classroom that we'll be handing over in Mpumalanga this week on Mandela Day. Ensuring that every child can read, write, and count for meaning by the age of 10 remains a core priority of this administration. Without these foundational skills, learners struggle to progress in key subjects such as maths, science, technical or vocational streams, limiting their chances of success in further education and meaningful work. The introduction of subjects like entrepreneurship, coding, and robotics is important, honorable members, but without literacy and numeracy, these opportunities remain too far out of reach for many learners. Improving foundational learning is therefore at the heart of the strategy to ensure that more learners progress through our system, exit with quality results, and are better placed to study further, start and sustain successful businesses, or enter the job market. Informed by the latest results of the international benchmarking studies and our very own systemic evaluation, which revealed that 8 out of 10 young children in South Africa cannot read for meaning by grade 4. We have announced last year that we are undertaking a strategic reorientation of the system so that our basic education system is geared towards improving the quality of foundational learning. Our strategy places strong emphasis on expanding quality ECD and strengthening foundational literacy and numeracy. In February 2025, we hosted the Banapel Leadership Summit, where stakeholders affirmed their commitment to the 2030 ECD strategy. We are also intensifying the mass registration drive to bring more ECD programs, particularly in underserved areas, under the care and the oversight of the DBE and provinces. We have set ourselves a bold target to register 10,000 ECD centers in the current financial year. Sizimisela uqinisekisa ukuba wonke umntana weli ufumana ithuba lemfundo esemgangathweni besebancinci. Sayazi ukuba abantwana xa befundiswa nekudlala kwiminyaka yabo apho bana 0 to 4 baya bagqwese esikolweni kwiminyaka eye ilandela. Another step we've taken is to expand access to quality ECD, is to prioritize the work that we are doing on the Children's Amendment Bill, which will be introduced to Parliament in the current financial year. This bill aims to create more of an enabling regulatory framework for ECD to ensure greater inclusion of ECD sites and the oversight of our support systems of government. The department has also laid the foundations required to support quality teaching and learning in our ECD centers in 2 ways. One, we've developed a learning and teaching support materials to assist ECD practitioners to effectively implement our strategy, which is the National Curriculum Framework. Number 2, we're also developing a human resource development strategy just for ECD to guide the professionalization of the sector, including training pathways and continuous professional development and qualification for ECD practitioners. To support learning and quality learning in the foundation phase, the department continues to roll out mother tongue-based bilingual education program, training teachers in bilingual methods and providing quality support materials. Abaphandi nochwepheshe bezemfundo kumhlaba wonke bayavumelana ukuba xa abantwana befundiswa ngolwimi lwabo lasekhaya bayakhawuleza bazifunde kwamsinya izifundo ekuye kuthiwe zinzima ezifana nezobalo nenzululwazi. Phofu kuwo onke amazwe afumileyo abantwana bafunda ngamalwimi abo nalapha abantwana bafunda ngamalwimi abo nalapha eMzantsi Afrika sifuna ukwenza njalo. The Funza Lushaka Bursary Program has been aligned to prioritize foundation phase teaching development efforts that are guided by our focus on literacy and on numeracy. We've also begun reviewing the post-provisioning norms to improve the post-distribution and help provinces manage budget pressures. In addition, the national catalogue for grade 1s to 3 is being updated to ensure that learners receive high-quality curriculum-aligned materials. Honourable members, we anticipate that this new national catalogue will be in place by 2026 for procurement for the 2027 school year. Honorable members, quality teaching is a greater enabler of quality learning outcomes. The department is therefore auditing all training and professional development offerings available to our educators to determine how these can be best augmented and aligned to support teaching of literacy and numeracy, effective school management, and the professional management of our schools. To support the expansion of access to quality inclusive education, we've increased allocations for assistive devices and strengthened the coordination between schools, districts, and health services. Good progress has also been made in reviewing the White Paper 6 on inclusive education. This work will shape how the sector continues to build an inclusive education system that accommodates diverse learning needs. Honorable members, while the progress is made has been significant, there's still much more work that needs to be done to ensure that all our special schools and our ordinary schools are fully inclusive spaces for learners. Malunga NCOP sayazi ukuba asikabi iqinisekiseni into yobana abantwana abakhubazekileyo bayalifumana ithuba lokufunda as enshrined in our constitution. Yiyo loo nto ke sifuna ukunyusa isantya salo msebenzi. We will continue to take positive steps to support our educators and schools to meet our education needs of our learners. In line with our commitment to improving school safety and quality, we continue to assist provinces with infrastructure planning, development, and maintenance, and we are reviewing the public school infrastructure regulations to strengthen oversight and enforcement. The review scheduled for completion in this financial year will include public and stakeholder input. We have finalized and signed the new National School Safety Protocol with the South African Police Service, a landmark step, in our view, in bringing SAPS and the department in closer cooperation. We have also initiated a development of disaster management guidelines to assist our schools. This is especially important in light of the Mthatha natural disasters, where we sadly lost learners, honorable members, and hundreds of schools were damaged. We are reviewing the models used by provinces to implement the National School Nutrition Program to improve efficiency, financial management, and accountability in how the program is implemented. Furthermore, we've actively supported the sector in implementing the Bela Act, which came into effect on the 24th of December 2024. This support has included training of provincial and district officials, the development of interim guidelines, the development of quite a suite of draft regulations for further support and implementations. The first two regulations, which are focused on admissions and capacity, will be published in the coming weeks for public comment. For further regulations will follow. This reflects our commitment to a legal and policy framework that is responsive and fit for purpose. These broader efforts signal a broader shift towards more responsive, accountable leadership and a system that is grounded in purpose and growth. Even as we strengthen the foundations of our basic education system, we cannot ignore the storm clouds that are gathering over the sector, many of them fiscal in nature. The reality is that our sector is operating under significant financial strain, particularly at a provincial level, where service delivery mostly occurs. In the past year, we've witnessed real and harmful effects of decades of fiscal ill-discipline that prioritized the bailing out of SOEs over investing in education and the future of our country. This has now led to unfilled posts due to compensation ceilings, persistent infrastructure backlogs, interruptions in nutrition, transport, and safety programs, and in some provinces, non-payment of school allocations. These are not just technical failures. They are the threat to the right to education. Following the recent meeting with the 9 MECs, we have discussed and decided that provinces must submit credible financial recovery plans to be reviewed in July, addressing vacant posts, delivery breakdowns, ghost employees, and compliance with funding norms. MECs and the heads of departments must also provide written updates on immediate stabilization actions to be reviewed jointly with the National Treasury. Provinces have been directed to ring-fence spending on teaching and learning, infrastructure, learner transport. In this climate, there's no space for vanity projects or unaccountable spending. We will activate oversight tools that are provided under the National Education Policy Act, and where necessary, we will escalate underperformance through intergovernmental channels in this Parliament. Accountability, honourable members, is a non-negotiable. Honourable members, in addition to the pressures I've outlined, our sector is in desperate need for additional funding to support the rollout of compulsory grade R as required by the Bella Act. The sector was not able to secure additional funding from Treasury for this important undertaking, and so this has meant that our provinces have had to fund this within their allocated budgets. We will continue to work closely with the Minister of Finance to ensure that additional funding can be secured so that all children are able to access quality grade R education. As a sector, we also need to take an honest look at how to strengthen public trust in our schooling system, taking into account the growth of our independent schools and notable increases in home education registrations. I am activating an advisory body, the National Education and Training Council, in the coming weeks to advise me on a range of matters that are relevant here. This advisory body will review the resourcing model for all public schools, explore ways to reduce the administrative burden on teachers, and consider whether progression and promotion requirements remain fit for purpose. This is what it means to weather the storm, not to be immobilized by constraint, but to respond with discipline, clarity, agility, and purpose. The education of our children must be protected at every turn. In 2025-2026, the budget is, however, a reminder that we remain committed to a growing sector that towards the light has targeted investments designed to strengthen core programs, close historical gaps, and unlock the full potential of every learner. This year, the DBE has allocated a total budget of 35 billion rand, reflecting an increase of over 8% from the previous year. These additional resources are concentrated where they will have the greatest impact, aligned with our national 5 key priorities. Investing in the early years will yield the greatest returns. ECD conditional grant therefore increases from over 1.7 billion rand, supporting provincial planning, workforce development, and quality assurance systems. Over 230 million rand has been allocated to the ECD nutrition pilot, ensuring that learners in this critical phase receive daily meals, especially in rural and under-resourced areas. 162 million rand has been set aside for ECD infrastructure, focusing on the upgrading, the formalization of centers, especially in our poorer communities. Our goal is clear. Every child must enter grade 1 ready to learn, cognitively ready, and emotionally and physically ready. The strategic reorientation of the sector to foundational learning is at the heart of this administration's education reform agenda. It is born out of commitment to ensure that every child can read for meaning and calculate with confidence by the time they turn age 10. The Curriculum Policy Support and Monitoring Program therefore receives 4.6 billion, an increase of 14%. The Workbook Program is funded over 1.2 billion rand, ensuring that the provision of quality materials from grade R to grade 9 is provided for, which includes Braille versions. We are increasing our efforts to support learners whose home language differs from the one that they are taught in, and so therefore a further 57 million rand is allocated over the medium term to mother tongue-based bilingual education. Our message is simple. Reading is non-negotiable, and the foundation phase is where the battle for equity and excellence must be won. We are committed to building a system that recognizes diversity, that removes barriers of learning, and make sure that our learners with diverse education needs are part of our national education vision, but not just marginal to it. Provincial spending is also being closely monitored to ensure that assistive devices, transport for learners with disabilities, and other teaching aids are budgeted for. No reform, honourable members, can succeed without empowered teachers, and that's why this budget increases investment both in initial teacher education and ongoing professional development. This is allocated 1.8 billion rand, and these funds will support content-specific in-service training. The Funza Lushaka bursary scheme will support just over 9,000 students in the financial year, focusing on maths, science, and foundational phase. The teacher is the most single important school factor influencing learner outcomes, and so we must continue to professionalize and support this workforce. Honorable members, children cannot learn if they do not feel safe, and therefore the education infrastructure grant increases to 15.3 billion rand, which includes targeted top-ups and making sure that we're supporting infrastructure in our provinces. The school nutrition program is funded at 10 billion rand and is feeding over 9.6 million learners every single day. This budget is grounded in our constitutional duty and the belief that education is the most powerful lever for transformation. Indeed, the system is like a boab tree. And so I want to thank the Deputy Minister, our officials, including the Director General, our public entities who are here, my provincial colleagues, educators, and various stakeholders, and most importantly, the learners of South Africa. Your resilience is truly remarkable. I therefore call upon members of this House to support this budget, not out of party affiliation, but in the name of the people that we serve. This is a budget for the future of our country. Diabulela.
Thank you very much, Minister Gwarube. Honorable members, you can see that this minister takes her work seriously, so much so that she came dressed for the occasion. I wonder which school she's from, but thank you very much, Minister, for your inputs. And yes, we do take education very seriously, and we know that the department is on track in terms of that is concerned. We now move on to the chairperson of the Select Committee. That is Honorable Fenny. Honorable Fenny, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me take this opportunity to greet the one and only CIC of the land, Honorable Matamela Siakashel, Honorable ministers in our midst, specifically the Minister for Basic Education, premiers, MECs, and the MEC from the Home of Legends, Honorable Gade. You are treated in this house. Yes, honorable members, patriots, specifically, most important stakeholder, the generation of this country, which is the children. Let me greet you all. Honorable Minister, I'm happy when you do acknowledge the work of those who have laid a foundation before the 7th administration, specifically when we are raising the question of the reduction of pit latrines, toilets. It is indeed, Honorable Minister, that we must at all times acknowledge and speak the truth when the truth is there for everyone to see. So I'm applauding you, Honorable Minister, for doing that. An American philosopher by the name of John Dewey once said, education is not a preparation for life, but education is life itself. It is with those words that gives me privilege and honor to debate on one of the most important sectors of our society, where the entire future of the nation rests. Honorable Chair, the country finds itself at crossroads where the economy has been struggling to grow beyond 2% of the GDP for the past 15 years. This has forced the government to make tough economic decisions when it comes to trade-off within prioritization. I'm proud to announce that despite those challenges that are facing our country, this government led by the African National Congress ensured that it does not compromise when it comes to education of our future, our children. 2025-2026 National Treasury's budget shows that learning and culture is set to receive around 5.087 billion, with 332.3 billion specifically for the basic education sector, making this the highest expenditure item on the fiscus. This has high implication for the Select Committee on Education's Science and Creative Industry, which is to ensure that it is safeguarding this enormous budget at both national and provincial level. Basic education is highly contested terrain, and our movement, the movement of the people, African National Congress, acknowledges education is a fundamental instrument for socio-economic transformation. This is why one of the first priorities of the post-1994 democratic government was to combat the high level of child and adult illiteracy that were engineered to disadvantage the black majority during apartheid. A functionally literate person is the one who can engage in an activity in which literacy is required for effective functioning and is able to read, write, and calculate materials for self and for the development of his or her community. This is why you cannot improve the socio-economic status of a country while vast majority of its people remain illiterate. The General Household Survey conducted in 1995 found that approximately 28% of the South African adults were considered functionally illiterate and 42% having education of up to level grade 9 and below. Today's research shows that South Africa has approximately a 90% literacy rate among its adult population. Improved access to education, particularly after 1994, is likely to have contributed to a lower level of illiteracy in young adults when compared to old adults. Chairperson, this brings us to imperative of strengthening support for universal access to early childhood development in building child cognitive development and school readiness. The Bella Act, which has been receiving resistance from some quarters, at least today we can all safely argue that we have arrived in the realization of the better future for our children. It is very explicit in ensuring that South African children have access to compulsory grade R and have right to be educated in their mother tongue language. This is in line with the ANC's resolutions from its 55th National Conference, which advocated for both compulsory early childhood development and mother tongue education. It is disingenuous for some organizations to continue to mislead the public that ANC government is against children being taught in their mother tongue language, and argue that Afrikaans as a language of instruction is being targeted. This is a false claim amid the fueling racial tensions in the country and must be condemned at all costs. The Constitution of the Republic is very clear on the 12 official languages in our country, and this government will ensure that these all languages are implemented in our education sector where the need arises so that social cohesion is also achieved. Therefore, the Select Committee on Education, Sciences and Creative Industries will continuously monitor the implementation of Bella Act and scrutinize the guidelines to be followed by provinces in the implementation processes. No stakeholders must be left behind, Honorable Minister. As we've heard the outcry, we are pleading to your good self to ensure that every stakeholder that is imperative on the basic education sector is taken on board. Honorable Chairperson, access to mother tongue education and early childhood development will enable us as a nation to improve our learners' level of numeracy and their ability to read for meaning. We therefore commend the Minister of Finance in allocating 10 billion in new funding towards the ECD subsidy, raising it from 17% child per day, where it has been stuck since 2019, to 24 rand per child per day, and further extending ECDC to additional 700,000 children. This subsidy will be received by registered ECDC program that serve children who live in poor households and will spend on staff fees, nutrition, and operational costs. Overall, the number of subsidized children will increase from 800,000 today to 1.5 million by 27-28 financial years, which is an important step towards realizing the country's roadmap to achieving universal access to quality ECD by 2030. This is a government plan that have targeted and also analyze that by this period, at least will be at this particular level of development of our society. In our oversight work, we will ensure that these funds are used efficiently, and visit to various ECD centers around the country will be conducted to ensure that our children receive the best foundational education that the country has to offer. Honorable Chair, we would like to call for the sector to address the issues of shortage of educators, strengthen the professional development, and ensure alignment with curriculum reform, as well as evolving critical skills to be taught in the sector. This year's budget also prioritized the retention and appointment of additional educators, especially at a foundational level. This matter was part of a select committee engagement with the DPE during the previous financial year, where we emphasized that no educator shall be retrenched or removed from their post for whatever reasons. We saw that those provinces that were trying to take a different direction, specifically the one that is hosting us, the Western Cape, that continues to pretend as if it's a parallel government. That cannot be accepted in this country. We therefore call all districts to ensure that posts are filled and we do our oversight work. We do not want to hear that funded posts have been vacant for over 6 months, irrespective of reasons provided. There is only one line of march. We cannot move to different direction if we want to build a united nation. We therefore call for the training of the ECD practitioners to ensure that they are adequately qualified for their positions and that are able to serve learners with special needs. Honorable Chair, in closing, we want to assure this House that every rand allocated to this budget vote contributes directly to the strengthening of our democratic foundations, as envisaged in the ANC manifesto, while driving forward the imperative to overcome our historical injustices. Our schools shall become agents for change within our society, and we will ensure that we work with stakeholders to eradicate overcrowding, crime, gangsterism, bullying, teenage pregnancies, and all other social ills confronting our education system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Feni. The next speaker to come to the podium will be the Honorable Adriansa, who has 8 minutes.
Let's just get it up higher. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, Honorable dignitaries that's present today, my fellow South Africans, education is so much more than just memorizing facts. It is about building a future where every child is empowered to think critically, question boldly, and innovate courageously. As Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. But to think, learn, and thrive at school, children need more than textbooks. They need safe and supportive environments, proper nutrition, and a system that believes in their potential and growth. Safety means proper infrastructure. Yet, too many children have lost their lives drowning in pit toilets. That's been happening for years. In 2016, the Eastern Cape Department of Education promised to act, but failed, blaming a lack of funds. Yet in the same year, 530 million in unused education funds were returned to Treasury by the very same department. In 2021 and 2022, more funds went unused, 205 million and 100 million in the Eastern Cape, respectively, for each year, and 312 million in Mpumalanga. It was simply put, a mess. This could have saved lives. But there's hope. Thanks to the GNU and Minister Gwarube, we're returning tragedy into progress. As of March 2025, 96% of pit toilets identified in the 2018 SAFE initiative have been eliminated. Only 141 of 3,372 remains. It's not perfect yet, but we're getting there. This is real, measurable change. Proof that with focus and commitment, we can restore dignity to every child. The mess has now become a message of hope. Another crisis, less visible but equally destructive, and a silent pandemic in schools, is bullying. This is not mere teasing as we all experience. It's a toxic force that erodes safety, destroys trust, and can tragically lead to suicide. Children should not walk into a school fearful of humiliation, of violence, of isolation. The cancel culture is real and extremely cruel, especially more so for all those already facing hardship at home. We must create schools where every child feels protected, valued, and that they belong. Creating safe schools is the foundation, but what we build on the foundation matters even more. We live in an age about misinformation, emotional manipulation, and rapid technological change. We must teach our children to evaluate information critically, discern truth from fiction, engage responsibly as citizens or in a democracy. The fourth industrial revolution demands creators, not copycats or parrots. In other words, critical thinkers, not passive receivers. Education must ignite curiosity, cultivate problem solvers, and prepare children to challenge the status quo. While our education system prepares learners for the fourth industrial revolution, driven by technology, creativity, and critical thinking, the warning of recent research is also clear. Over-reliance on AI can dull especially young minds ability to think independently. In other words, critically. We therefore must integrate digital literacy carefully, equip teachers, upgrade infrastructure, teach skills like coding and problem solving early, but not at the cost of the basics, reading with understanding, writing, and arithmetic. No matter how modern and glamorous a building is structured, if the foundation is weak, it will collapse. Reading, writing, and arithmetic remain the essentials for a solid educational foundation. This child-centered budget presents the correct priorities over gimmicks. The department's efforts in this regard must be supported. Our 1996 Constitution envisioned a nation of dignity, safety, and opportunity. Our schools must live up to that promise, being inclusive, safe, and empowering schools for all learners. A truly evolving curriculum doesn't just transfer knowledge, it builds voice, confidence, and independence and critical understanding of learning material. Because if children don't feel safe or respected, they won't think freely. And if they don't think freely, they won't be ready for life after school. The Minister's close attention to this is appreciated. In closing, as Aristotle said, it's the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. This budget vote isn't just about numbers. It's about the lives and futures of our children. We owe them safety and dignity and a system that equips them to shape a better world. The DA supports the budget because we've seen a beginning of real change, and out of duty to every learner we serve to keep that progress alive. Let's commit with all our hearts and an unwavering
Thank you very much, Honorable Adriansa.
No
Your time
child
has expired.
behind.
Thank you. And we now move to the Home of Legends, the Honorable MEC from the Home of Legends, Honorable Khade. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Your established protocol is observed. Chief Whip, Honorable Minister of Basic Education, Honorable members of the NCOP, Deputy Chair, and everybody that has been able to observe and monitor the discussions in the NCOP. Honorable Chair, let me first appreciate the opportunity that has been granted to us to be part of the discussions today. But one must raise up one thing, Chair, first and foremost, that the nation is at a critical phase, a critical moment in the country's development trajectory, where education must rise as both a lever for economic empowerment and a shield against enduring challenges of poverty and inequality. Education sector has been entrusted with a tremendous responsibility by the 7th administration to tackle poverty, reduce cost of living. The medium-term development plan provides a clear direction for the outcomes expected of the Department of Education over the next 5 years. This includes the the improved education outcomes and skills, as well the advancement on the social cohesion and the nation-building project. Whilst our primary focus will remain on the strategic priority 2, we are also actively contributing to strategic priority 1, which is inclusive growth and job creation, and the strategic priority 3, which is also building a capable, ethical and developmental state. This will be achieved through a collaboration, Honorable Chair, with other departments as outlined in the Provincial Medium-Term Development Plan of the province. Honorable members, the 2025-2030 strategic plan articulates the outcomes that will enable us to realize the strategic plan number 2 over the 5-year period. Our annual performance plan will serve as an implementation tool through which the sector delivers the promise we have made to the people of the province. The President, through the SONA debate, I quote, "Last year we have signed the Basic Education Law Amendment Act, which is a pivotal for ensuring that education is accessible and inclusive in the country, in South Africa. This year, the Minister of Basic Education will introduce national policy norms and standards and regulations to empower all partners in basic education to support the implementation of the Act. The legislative framework will guide the sector's transformation agenda during the 7th administration." I close quote. Honorable members, the Basic Education Law Amendment Act introduces legislative reforms to improve governance, accessibility, and the quality of basic education in South Africa, in the country. Amongst its key provisioning is the amendment of the admission policy for public schools, transferring more decision-making powers from school governing bodies to education departments. And again, Honorable Chair, the Act also makes Grade R compulsory, reinforcing our commitment to early childhood development. It addresses language policy, school discipline, by allowing provincial departments to influence the school language offerings to support multilingualism, inclusive nature of and the character of the sector itself. The home language schooling is more tightly regulated, requiring registration within the department and adherence to the standard curriculum. Furthermore, Honorable Chair, the Act introduced digital record keeping and strengthened leadership accountability in schools. These comprehensive reforms are a necessity for the enhancement, accessibility, inclusivity, the effectiveness of the basic education, even as we address the resulting budget pressures that we are experiencing. Honorable members, the department's dedication to implementing White Paper 6 underscores our strategic intent to achieve inclusive education for all learners of the province. This includes those who have various barriers to learning. Central to this is the strengthening of the teacher training and professional development programs geared towards inclusive classroom practices. We aspire to establish fully inclusive education system, one in which children with disability are not isolated in a separate school, but are integrated into the mainstream schooling system. One of the department's key interventions has been the creation of schools as resource centers and early identification of learning difficulties for timely support from the SACE policy. Honorable members, the early childhood development is a fundamental to a child's long-term health, education, well-being. The first 1,000 days of the child's life are particularly critical. Investing in early childhood empowers children and contributes to the national growth and society. In the Eastern Cape, Honorable Chair, early childhood is vital for transforming communities and breaking poverty cycles, ensuring every child has got an opportunity to thrive. Under the medium-term development plan, second strategy priority, reducing poverty and tackling high cost of living. The first outcome is improving education and skills. To realize this, we need to implement the three unfolding processes for 2025, Honorable Chair. A mass registration drive to accelerate compliance of ECD programs, the integration of Grade R into compulsory schooling system as required by BELA Act, the improvement of the quality of the ECD programs in ensuring every child has an access to foundation learning. Honorable Chair, the Eastern Cape Department of Education is committed to providing a curriculum responsive to the evolving world, including expanding access to skills development programs through the three streams model as we are incorporating future skills accordingly. Through the three streams model, Chair, that is being piloted in both public and special schools, learners will leave the system with skills required by the economy. In the same vein, the youth development initiatives, such as Basic Education's Employment Initiative, will empower 28,000 unemployed youth in the province. A special attention is also going to be given to training opportunities for youth living with disability. The BEEI has been successfully launched in the province and has brought hope to many families of the province. It is not only going to lessen the youth unemployment, but also alleviate the poverty. As part of social cohesion and nation building, Chair, the department prioritizes inclusion, redress, and equity.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC.
Thank you so much,
Your
Chair.
time has expired. Thank you for your input. The next honorable member to address the House is the Honorable Briet, and I'm told that she is on the virtual platform. Honorable Briet, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and I do apologize for not being there in person. Circumstances did not work out that way. Marva Collins, a great pioneer in the field of education, once said that education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. Without it, children are left to struggle in a world they are ill prepared to face. This is especially evident in a country like South Africa, where abject poverty employment rates have become the only things that are growing. Jeugwerkloosheid tussen die ouderdom van 15 en 34 jaar oud het gegroei na 46,1% in die eerste kwartaal van 2025. Dis 'n verhoging vanaf 44,6% in die vierde kwartaal van 2024. As daar gekyk word na die ouderdomsgroep 15 tot 24 jaar, raak die statistiek aansienlik erger met jeugwerkloosheid 'n skokkende 62,4% in die eerste kwartaal van 2025. Hoekom praat ek oor jeugwerkloosheid in 'n basiese onderwysdebat? Omdat mense moet gaan kyk na die redes waarom jeugwerkloosheid so hoog is en of dit te maak het met die jeug wat nie aanstelbaar is nie. En hoekom dit die geval is. Die minister het vandag verwys na die skrikwekkende statistiek dat 84% van alle graad 4 leerders nie met begrip kan lees nie. Maar meer as dit, omtrent 60% van alle graad 1's maak dit nie tot by matriek nie en min of meer 40% van alle leerders beskik nie oor die nodige vaardighede om 'n werk te kry nie. En dit raak nog erger, 56% van werklose Suid-Afrikaners het nie matriek nie. Dit is 'n groot weerhoudingsfaktor vir langtermyn indiensneming van Suid-Afrikaners. There is no question about the fact that South Africa's crumbling education system is a breeding ground that keeps those in poverty at a disadvantage and dependent on state assistance for survival. According to findings by the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, students from poverty-stricken homes who don't compete at least basic education are twice as likely to remain in poverty in adulthood. This number doubles when looking at poverty-stricken children who do not complete secondary education, making them nearly 4 times as likely to stay in poverty as adults compared to students who advance their education beyond this point. Agbare minister, in my observasie is daar 4 groot faktore wat u gaan moet aanspreek en so vinnig as moontlik. Dit is infrastruktuur van skole, leerder-onderwyser ratio, moedertaalonderwys en korrupsie van fondse bestem vir skole. U het al baie verwys en ons is dankbaar daarvoor, maar meer moet nog gedoen word. According to government's own data, a cool 129 billion rand is needed to fix the dire backlog in infrastructure of South African schools. Her toilet eradication has been good, but over 13,000 schools need additional toilets and over 6,000 lack reliable water supply, exposing young learners to a multitude of health and safety risks. According to the Department of Basic Education's own recommendation, the ideal student-teacher ratio in primary school is 30:1 and in secondary school 35:1. In South Africa, a typical primary school classroom accommodates at least 39 students per teacher, and over 50% of primary schools have around 40 students per classroom, while around 15% exceed 50 learners. Under-resourced schools often exceed a 40:1 ratio, while provinces like the Eastern Cape have reported having anything between 50 and 78 students per classroom. Minister, we acknowledge your shift towards mother tongue education, but we do not want to see just 2 languages. We have 12 official languages and learners must be able to attend school in their languages of choice. Dis ononderhandelbaar. Agbare Feni, het gesê die ANC is nie teen moedertaalonderrig nie. Ek sal die vra en nie teen Afrikaans nie. Gaan maak 'n draai in Gauteng. Die premier Lesofie daar sê ander dinge. Maar terug by die punt. Funding meant to fix SA's dysfunctional educational system often disappears long before it can add so much as a single brick to a crumbling school. Yes, it is mostly misappropriated from grants to provinces, but this does not matter. Provinces need to be held accountable. Agbare minister,
Thank you very much, Honourable Briet. Your time has expired.
Dankie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We now move to the Western Cape, and I welcome the Honourable Van Wyk. Honourable Van Wyk, you have 10 minutes.
Honourable House Chairman. Is this working? No. In the Western Cape, there is a determination to step up to the most pressing challenges in education. This includes improving learning outcomes, expanding access to education, creating secure school environments, supporting vulnerable learners, and ensuring departmental sustainability. For this reason, the Western Cape will spend 33.25 billion rand on its education budget, which is a 5.9% increase compared to last year. In addition to the equitable share and conditional grants, this budget includes 644 million rand that has been funded from the Western Cape Provincial Revenue Fund. To meet the funding challenge, the WCED undertook a comprehensive financial review of its expenditure in 2024 to ensure that its programs were sustainable and affordable. While the Western Cape performs better than other provinces in international assessments of reading, of mathematics and science, we still fall far short of international benchmarks. We need to improve our children's scores so that they have the skills and capabilities to take on further training, to be able to find jobs or go into their own businesses. House Chair, the Back on Track program will continue for primary school learners, grade 12 learners and teachers receiving professional development support. The Basic Education Employment Initiative provides funding for 4,370 school assistants to gain job experience. And as the fastest growing province, there is a challenge to expand access to education. We need to upgrade and build new schools and classrooms faster than before. 2.862 billion rand will be spent on school infrastructure. The Rapid School Build program has completed 15 new schools over the last 2 financial years. We are grateful for the support that we've received here in terms of 2.549 billion rand from National Treasury through the budget facility for infrastructure. Our existing school buildings must be maintained, and we will spend 1.328 billion on maintaining and upgrading existing school infrastructure. Over the next 3 years, the aim is to complete 29 new schools, new and replacement schools, and to encourage partnerships with the private sector to open new schools. Our vulnerable learners will receive additional support in promoting safe schools. Law enforcement, school resource officers will be deployed in high-risk areas. As the National School Nutrition Grant does not cover the cost of food inflation for the 537,000 receiving school meals, the province will provide a top-up of 71 million rand to ensure a reasonable standard of food. 674 million rand will be spent to safely transport 69,000 learners to and from school. To ensure departmental sustainability, the WCED is adding up to 477 growth posts to accommodate new learners. While there's been an additional allocation to cover the 23.737 billion rand cost of employment this year, there remains significant risks to be managed in the placement of teachers and also for growth. Funding has been provided for access and expansion to grade R, which includes new grade R classrooms at schools and also ECD sites. Unfortunately, the introduction of compulsory grade R is an unfunded mandate, totally unfunded from national government. We have not received any additional funding to expand schools for grade R learners or to fund additional teachers. National Treasury must back this mandate with adequate funding. If grade R is to be compulsory, it must be properly resourced. It is unacceptable to ask provinces to deliver a national mandate without national funding support. We have the oldest portfolio of school infrastructure in the country, and there's extreme pressure for new schools and classrooms. Therefore, the budget for maintenance and replacement of school is unfortunately limited. Moving funding away from maintenance and replacement schools to fund other priorities puts our schools and our children at significant risk. While some relief is expected in a further funding allocation through an adjustments budget, the greatest risk we face is continuing budget uncertainty. Chairperson, it is important to acknowledge the broader national picture and the risks it holds for every child in South Africa. Across the country, provincial education departments are buckling under budget shortfalls, with devastating consequence for learners. In many provinces, the departments have failed to make provision for the nationally mandated norms and standards, for basic operational allocations that schools rely on to pay for textbooks, stationery, electricity, water, maintenance. In the Eastern Cape, schools are literally in the dark as electricity bills go unpaid. School feeding schemes have collapsed in both the Eastern Cape and KZN, leaving thousands of learners hungry. In the Free State, teachers have been denied medical care because of non-payment of GEMS contributions. In Gauteng, we've seen cuts to independent school subsidies, schools of specialization, school transport, and even nutrition schemes. Across provinces, principals often have to use personal funds to buy basics. This is not financial mismanagement. It is the result of unfunded mandates, shifting priorities, and a failure to adequately resource basic education. We call on National Treasury to stop pouring billions into failing and corrupt state-owned entities and to prioritize the care and the core basics of literacy and numeracy. Without improving these learning outcomes, there is no hope of building a skilled workforce or growing the economy. House Chair, while the Western Cape has managed so far to meet the challenges that I've described, this picture provides context to the critical fiscal situation being faced by education departments across the country. In the 22-23 financial year, collectively, the 9 provinces had total expenditure of 275 billion rand. During 23-24, the fiscal crunch took place when budgets were simply cut in year, affecting not only that school year, but also the planning for the new school year in January 24. The total expenditure budget for the provinces for 25-26 is 315 billion rand. That is 40 billion higher than it was in 22-23. The annual average increase is 4.6% a year. The largest single expenditure item in education is compensation of employees or salaries. In 22-23, provinces spent 210 billion. Now we're budgeting 246 billion, which is an increase of 36 billion rand. So therefore, 36 billion out of the 40 billion rand has gone towards salaries. It is not possible to maintain fiscal sustainability when such a large expense component increases by 5.4% a year, whereas total expenditure only increases by 4.6%. The proportion of expenditure being used for salaries has increased from 76 to 78%. In Gauteng, it increased from 71 to 77. KZN is almost at 83%. In the Western Cape, we've managed to keep this at 71, 72%. If we then turn to operating costs, we see that goods, services, transfers, and subsidies, that impact is quite worrying. Those costs cover anything from learning materials, books, stationery, through to municipal services, security, maintenance, etc. Over the period, we've seen a collective increase of from 56 billion to 58 over that period. That's only an increase of 1% per year on average. And the provinces are experiencing severe pressures. We're seeing accruals, we're seeing unpaid municipal services. As a percentage to total expenditure, this has declined from 20.4 to 18.4. Earlier, I described the challenge to fund maintenance of school facilities and the provision of upgrades. But the other provinces are only spending 40 to 50% of what is being spent in the Western Cape. House Chair, in closing, our national budget is allocating 35% more money to the servicing costs of our national debt than it is to provincial education. The present allocation is not financially sustainable. With the increase of cost of employment exceeding the increases in total expenditure, we've reached the stage where it's becoming extremely difficult to balance those books. It is time for bold and honest decisions. We must stop treating education as an afterthought. The first call on the national purse must be for the future of our children. Budgetary solutions must be found and fast if we are to avoid collapse of basic education in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Van Wyk. We now move on to the next speaker to take the podium, and that is Honourable Farmer. Honourable Farmer, you have 5 minutes.
Honourable Chairperson, honourable members, fellow South Africans, I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour. the God without whom we won't succeed. I rise today on behalf of the Patriotic Alliance in this debate with both urgency and deep conviction. The future of our children is at stake. Honourable Minister, today you asked this august House to support this budget. Yet on the 12th of March this year, you chose not to support this budget. How politics can humble a person. Honourable members, education is not just a tool. It is the foundation on which every township child should be able to build a better future. It is the ladder out of poverty. But today, too many of our schools have become sites of hopelessness rather than places of opportunity. Let us not sugarcoat the state of our education system. It is failing our children, especially the poor, the rural, and the forgotten. Chairperson, education is supposed to be the great equalizer. But in South Africa, it has become the great divider. A learner in a leafy suburb is exposed to digital learning, robotics, science labs, and art rooms. Meanwhile, a learner in a rural village or township is forced to study under a tree, drink from a contaminated bucket, and relieve themselves in a pit latrine. Let me be clear. No country can claim to be free when its children are still denied the basics. A safe classroom, a qualified teacher, and a textbook. We speak of fourth industrial revolution, yet many schools in our communities don't even have electricity, water, or flushing toilets. The legacy of apartheid is still present in our infrastructure and our access. Honourable members, the Patriotic Alliance believe in practical transformation, not slogans. We believe in a school for every child within walking distance, especially in rural and informal areas. Compulsory teacher development, performance reviews, and recertification to ensure that the classroom is led by the capable, not just the employed. Feeding schemes that nourish, not enrich corrupt contractors, because a hungry child cannot learn. School safety, including community-based patrollers and consequences for bullying, gangsterism, and drugs in schools. Inclusive education so that children with disabilities are not sidelined or institutionalized, but empowered and supported. Honourable members, the Patriotic Alliance want to see more investment in early childhood development because grade R is not babysitting, it's brain building. The Patriotic Alliance rejects a broken system that keeps our children trapped in generational poverty. We will not sit quietly while our children are failed by overcrowded classrooms, unsafe school environments, and a curriculum that does not equip them for life. We need this budget allocation. We note this budget allocation of over 300 billion. The question we must ask is not how much is being spent, but what value are our children getting? Chairperson, let's call a spade a spade. How can a teacher teach in fear of violence and gangsterism? The Patriotic Alliance believes in restoring discipline, pride, and patriotism in our schools. Education must not only teach facts, it must shape citizens. We must teach our children not just to pass, but to serve. We support stronger partnerships between schools and communities, and we say this with no apology. Every school must become a safe zone, free of gangsterism, drugs, and political interference. Honourable Chair, no child must be left behind because of where they live or the language they speak. Thus, the PA calls for mother tongue-based education in early grades, especially for coloured and African children. We cannot continue to disadvantage children by forcing them to learn in a language they barely understand. Chairperson, the Patriotic Alliance support this budget vote with serious reservations. We want to see monitoring, performance-based accountability, and an end to bureaucratic waste. Money must go where it matters, to the child, to the classroom, to the future. We challenge the department to cut waste, stop corruption, empower educators, and listen to communities. Our children are not criminals. They are not numbers. They are the heartbeat of this nation, and they deserve better. Salute.
Thank you very much, Honourable Farmer. Now we go to the land of the rising sun in Mpumalanga, the Honorable MEC. Honorable Dlamini, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, for the opportunity given to us in Mpumalanga to participate in this most important debate, the budget of basic education. We are encouraged to be part of this debate to support the budget presented by the Honorable Minister of Basic Education. We do so informed by the vision and foresight of the Freedom Charter, which proclaims that the doors of education and culture shall be open to all. We fully support this budget because we are fully conversant by the fact that it is the very only vehicle for which we can address inequality, poverty, unemployment in our province, Mpumalanga. In Mpumalanga, Honorable Chairperson and the House, we have set a new pass rate for our province to improve our 2024 pass rate to 90%. Therefore, for us to achieve that, we need this budget. While there is currently no school in Mpumalanga province that is solely rely on pediatrician as the only source of sanitation facility and no mud schools, the province is still experiencing a huge backlog of school infrastructure. I must indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that the House, it will be wrong of setting provinces against the minister to claim that all this progress is done by the minister. We are working as a team. Basic education is a core competency between national and provinces. So we therefore say we still do have a huge backlog in terms of infrastructure. In this financial year alone, we have planned to construct new schools in areas where there is growth of the population in our province. Not all of them, but we have decided to build new schools where there is a need. Also, building 8 replacement schools of the old schools that were built by communities. We want to rebuild them and make them suitable for teaching and learning in our schools. We also want to provide new sanitation to 23 schools in areas where we still have pediatrician toilets in our schools, in areas where there's challenges of water and there is increase of number of learners. So I say we're going to provide 23 schools with new sanitation facilities. We also want to provide an upgrade of water systems in 17 schools and undertake a 221 maintenance project, construct 218 additional classrooms, as well as 26 grade R classrooms, as we have started implementing the grade R in our schools. To achieve all this, Honorable Chairperson and the House, we require financial resources so that we ensure that we achieve what has been planned for our learners in our school. But we must also indicate that there are currently more than 900,000 learners that are benefiting from the National School Nutrition Program in the province, but must also indicate that with the budget that we are receiving, we are going to cater over 70,000 learners in terms of scholar transport. These pro-poor programs were initiated by the ruling party in our province. We are not in the GNU. They were initiated by the ruling party, and they do benefit our learners in our province. The province has also 101 secondary schools where all learners take mathematics, physical science, and accounting as compulsory subjects. There are 23 agricultural schools and also 45 technical high schools. And the province has established the first secondary school for arts to accommodate those who do not want to be scientists but have got talent on art. We will be opening a very new school, art school in Helsibande district called by Lucky Dube, as the communities requested us to use their icon. Added to these schools of specialization, we will be building a first mining school as resolved by the 7th administration in our province, but also schools of sports excellence to enhance the talent that our children have in the province. The 7th administration is driven, of course, by the Freedom Charter. We therefore want to ensure that all these proper programs are implemented. It also advocates for the modernizing digital and vocational learning, expanding access to post-school and adult education, and improve school infrastructure in our schools. Of significance is that it emphasizes measurable targets, accountability framework, and alignment with the labor market's demands. It is in this context that we appreciate all the efforts that are being made by the presidential stimulus in the form of Basic Education Empowerment Initiative Phase 5, where over 200,000 education and general school assistants were appointed in school throughout the country. Honorable Chairperson, I wish to emphasize that the fact that for the province like Mpumalanga, the delivery of quality education remains the only cornerstone for the total emancipation of our communities from the persistent grip of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Therefore, the Bella Act represents a critical vehicle in advancing these socio-economic goals. It embodies our collective aspiration for a more inclusive, equitable, and transformative education system. The implementation of the Act will assist in addressing the long-standing challenges that have constrained the effectiveness of our school. In this regard, its fully implementation for Mpumalanga province is not an option. It is about advancing the cause of the struggle to ensure that the doors of education are widely open for all our children in the province. To us in Mpumalanga, the Bella Act is the foundation upon which we can build a more equitable, just, inclusive, and thriving future for our learners at all levels. The department is making concerted efforts in collaboration with our stakeholders towards its implementation. There must be a clear political will amongst all of us from national to provinces and a commitment informed by the understanding that our socio-economic development is intrinsically linked to the provision of quality of basic education delivery across all grades. The moment is urgent, the cause is just. The struggle continues, education remains our sharpest spear. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Slamini. We now move on to KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm always happy to welcome KwaZulu-Natal to the House. And Honorable Slamuga, the Honorable MEC, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to honorable members of the NSOP, the Minister, our colleagues, leadership of organized labor. I saw leadership from organized labor, gentlemen and ladies Chairperson, allow me to start by sending a deepest condolences to the family, the friends, comrades, and the African National Congress, and the people of South Africa, of our former Deputy President, Mr. Titi Mabuza. Indeed, the giant's free has fallen. It is indeed an honor, Chair, to stand in this august house under the 7th administration to debate about the important budget vote under the sun. It is this budget vote that determines the future of the little girl in the deep rural area of Umkhanyakude district and Uthugela district in KwaZulu-Natal. It is this budget vote, Chair, that would bring a hope to many living in hopeless situations. As the President, Nelson Mandela, said, open quote, "It is through education that the daughter of the peasant can become a doctor, that a son of the mine worker can become a head of the mine, that the child of the farm worker can become a president of the great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we have given, that separate one from another." Close quote. Gempela inkunzi isematoleni, Mr. Chairperson. We appreciate the democratic government of South Africa for recognizing the importance of education and making sure that it remains the apex priority. The government constant investment in the education sector has created an enable environment for improved performance, regardless of the socio-economic background of our learners. The implementation of essential social security initiatives such as Learner Transport Program and the National School Nutrition Program, as well as no-fee school policy, has played a vital role in our ensuring that no learner is left behind. It is a good story to tell, indeed, Chairperson. This budget vote reflects on how the Department of Basic Education planning to make use of resources available to us to ensure that the basic foundation is provided to every learner that enters in our school's gate. This budget is thus particularly important as it outlines the direction in which the national department is heading as we prepare our own provincial budget, as the minister have already presented. Chairperson, the House is well aware of the challenges faced by the sector as the whole due the budget cuts over the years, as we must start by welcoming the increase of 7.4% to the allocation of the education this financial year. As the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we support this minister's budget as it's directed towards the program that seeks to build on the gains of democracy through the implementation of existing policy like the National Development Plan. The minister's budget reflects on the departmental aspiration to attain a quality result efficiently, and a quality education is the key to providing opportunity to our youth and can set them up for success or failure later in life. Mr. Chairperson, although much progress has been recorded across the measures, it is true that the quality of education in our country is still significantly skewed, with persistent inequalities impacting the learning experience and outcome of learners, particularly those from disadvantaged and rural background. This inequality is evident in disparity in resources of infrastructure and teacher quality across different schools and regions of education in our country still have a problem. We therefore welcome the intervention outlined by the minister, like the allocation for teacher education, emphasizing the need to empower educators with the skills and knowledge for changing the world will go a long way towards addressing this legacy of the past. It is against this backdrop that we in KwaZulu-Natal Chairperson will continue to review our progress against the steps to improve the on quality of learning that will ensure that the province remain a top contributor in the national senior certificate pass rate. Over and above the 89.5% pass rate achieved in 2024, the province continued to improve quality on the matric passes and other lower grade, because we're not only focusing on grade 12, but we're focusing from the foundation up to grade 12. We will, Chairperson, continue to striving for academic excellence in all our schools and districts. We are forging ahead with the implementation of our provincial academic improvement plan, whose pillars seek to improve the bachelor passes, eliminate certificate passes, eliminate 0% schools and schools achieving below 70%, increase number of learners passing with distinctions, achieve and maintain the above 60% rate in gateway subjects like mathematics, physical science, technical subjects, and accounting, and maintain the above 80% performance for all our districts. This budget is directly responding to the ever-changing economy and prepare learners for the future. The country has introduced a curriculum that equips learners with skills and competency for a changing world. The new curriculum offering include coding and robotics, new technical subjects, civil services, construction, automotive, welding and fitting, and mechanical and electrical technology, and so and other subjects. It is no longer about labeling the buffalo flies esasiwenza kuthiwa sidwebe iy'ntethe kodwa ngesikhathi se-apartheid kade sengena uhulumeni entando yeningi olidwa ukhongolos chairperson waqala wa-introducer a new subject very progressive. I'm proud to inform this House, Chair, that this year in 2026 will be the year where the KZN Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal will open the 2 state-of-the-art school, in addition to many others, such as Anthony Lembete Mathematics and Science Technology Academy. One of the schools that will be opened is Mbuso Kubheka in Newcastle, which deals with engineering and technology, and School of Excellence specializing in engineering and technology is already indicated, and Maritime School in eThekwini. As outlined in the National Development Plan, Chairperson, we strongly support the focus on strengthening the quality of implementation and provision of great art schooling in our country, especially in relation to teaching. Hence, directed by the provision of the BELA, we are paying special focus on strengthening the foundation of learning and through pre-grade R and grade R education, and to make it available to the most learners. We are going to make sure that we fully implement a BELA Act because there is a will politically and there's also a will administrative in the Department of KwaZulu-Natal, Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal. Focusing on these foundation stages will contribute to our effort to improve educational outcomes, throughput across all levels, including metrics, through our participation in international standardized benchmark assessment studies through the Department of Basic Education, particularly the progress in international reading and literacy studying. It has been revealed, Chairperson, that most foundation phase learners, particularly those that are in grade 4, are not doing well in literacy and struggling to read text for the meaning in their home language. Hence, we must make sure that we implement this BELA Act so that we'll all able to improve in terms of our home and language, Chairperson. Through the intervention like Qala Kahle strategy, which aims to enhance curriculum management by the school management teams and learner performance in literacy and mathematics, we are ready to improve the early grade reading instruction, target training in Zulu home language, teaching in grade R to grade 3 to improve their content knowledge, teaching methodology and classroom practice using the combination of face-to-face training.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. Sorry.
Okay,
to
we
do
want
this.
to say that we really support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person to contribute to this debate is Honorable Peter. Honorable Peter, you have 5 minutes.
Mandikhahlele kuwe sihlalo walendlu nakuye umphathiswa omhle welisebe lezemfundo ephansi nakwezi zikhakhamela zithe ncwadalala apha namhlanje nditsho ndithi iinkosi mazithambe isicaka sivumile mandigawule ndwarhuqa iUDM ime apha kweliqonga namhlanje ihlininika inyembezana imeko yokunqongophalo ebonakala imaqongo kwizikolo zephondo leMpuma Kapa iEastern Cape ke ukutsho Mphathiswa omhle nakuwe sihlalo walendlu iUDM namhlanje ithi mayinichubele sisikhwebu noxa nje kusekuhleni ukuba nazi ukuba iphondo leMpuma Kapa luqhwaleke ngeyona ndlela ihlinikisa umlisela nomthinjana bambi bemka nemisinga yamanzi bezama ukuya esikolweni ukuze impilo ibe ngcono bambi baxhomekeke ekuweleni imilambo ukuze bafikelele ezikolweni bambi baphela begutyungelwa yiloo misinga xa ithe yagcwala loo milambo xa bephuma emakhaya abo bantwana abazali bayabongoza kumdali wabo besithi xa bewela loo milambo wena Thixo yiba nabo naxa beza kubuya bephindela bathi kwa aba bazali asazi nguwe kuphela owaziyo imeko yendlela eya kwizikolo zethu ayinhle kwaphela mphathiswa omhle asazi ukuba sithini na isivumelano sakho nesebe lezothutho kulusizi asazi ukuba basibhenele phi na loo nto isibangela ukuba sibe nentandabuzo ukuba ingaba abaphathi belisebe basenalo na usizi okanye unembeza iUDM inombuzo kuwe mphathiswa ukuba ingaba usazityelela na izikolo ezikwilali zethu jikelele xa ndiyivala le budget mphathiswa omhle iUDM icela ukuba elisebe khe lisinike ingxelo ukuba ingaba zingaphi na izikolo ezisasebenzisa ibucket system kwiphondo jikelele ingaba zinjani indlela eziya ezikolweni ootishala bayanjani xa indlela zingekho kumgangatho ophucukileyo mphathiswa omhle iUDM ithatha ingqwalasela ithathela abaninzi malunga nale budget ithi iUDM izibuze umbuzo othi xa ingazoyipasisa le budget ingaba myalezo mni oyithumela kubemi belilizwe ingaba iUDM ithi please protect me chair.
You're protected, Honorable Peter. Continue.
Mphathiswa omhle iUDM ithatha ingqwalasela ebanzi malunga nale budget iUDM izibuze umbuzo othi xa ingazoyipasisa le budget ingaba myalezo mni oyithumela kubemi belilizwe ingaba ayithi na abantwana bakho mphathiswa mabangafundi na ingaba isebe lakho liza kusebenza njani xa lingazoba namavili okuhamba xa siwakhupha lamavili iza kuhamba njani na lenqwelo ngoko ke iUDM imenga omane amanqina ingqisha isithi nakanye mphathiswa ayinakuze ivimbele abantwana ithuba lemfundo iUDM ixhasa le budget icingela abantwana bendlu emnyama ukuze ikamva labo lingavaleleki ebumnyameni mphathiswa iUDM yakuncoma ngokuthi uliphakamise izinga le-early child development centers kwiphondo lonke iUDM kwakhona mphathiswa ikothulela umnqwazi ngokuthi uzame ukunciphisa izinga lezindlu zangasese ezingekho semgangathweni kodwa ukukukrwempa kona apho kungekho kuhle khona akuzophela njengoko nalapho kukuhle khona iUDM yakuhlala ikuncoma inkosi mphathiswa
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter. Now we move on to the next honorable member, and that's Honorable Duplessis. Honorable Duplessis, you have 8 minutes.
Good day, Honourable Deputy Chair, Minister, members, fellow South Africans. It takes a village to raise a child. Educating, supporting, and empowering the youth is not an easy task. It is as multifaceted as the human mind, even more so in the context of our complex environment. The children of South Africa face challenges likened to that of war-torn nations. From child-headed households to regular exposure to violence, neglect, hunger, abuse, and intimidation. Thus, there is an increasing need for schools to be a safe environment that protects learners from society. Yet, far too many schools struggle to provide this because of overcrowding, lack of access to transport, limited feeding schemes, GBV, teen pregnancies, drugs, and politicized school governing bodies. This is either as a result of limited resources or as a result of commitment to place children's needs first. Schools have needed to become the village, but sadly this village is carrying a heavy burden. Historic brutalities that started in 1910 of a schooling system that did not focus on children, but rather on exclusionary eugenic politics. And then the subsequent maladministration, fraud, and corruption that perpetuated a system that did not put children first. At SONA 2026, the President spoke about an education system that leaves no child behind. What an incredible goal. But it will take time, and it will take a village. The whole of society will need to take hands to put the welfare of children, regardless of their characteristics of birth, at the center of all decision-making. As with all departments, we assess yearly progress to see whether steps have been put in place to achieve relevant goals. Then we consider the feasibility of the plan and budget for the year ahead. And at times, this can be daunting. However, Minister Gwarube and the Department of Basic Education have taken steps that show results. Sustainable and real change only happens with small, consistent, strategic, and vision-focused steps over time. And in every program, there has been progression that is relevant to the on-the-ground impact in schools and communities. The minister started her term with a listening and learning tour in every province. This was then supplemented with additional school visits and stakeholder engagements. This allowed the minister an in-depth knowledge of the challenges and also how to address them. And here are a list of some of the improvements. As mentioned, there's an improvement of access and quality to early childhood development, and this is quintessential to redressing the injustices of our past. Pit latrines and infrastructure challenges are being tackled with marked success, and this not only creates a safe environment for our children, but it says to them that they matter enough for us to create schools that are safe. With a focus on equipping future generations to compete in the third and fourth industrial revolution, the department has improved literacy and numeracy for benchmark grades. A learner needs to read, write, and do basic arithmetic to access opportunities as they walk through life. Teachers, the very bedrock of our village, have not been left behind. There is a focus on school leadership and relevant teacher development, supporting teachers to develop young minds. And a quintile audit is underway. 30 years overdue, but it is happening, to ensure resources allocated to, according to quintile are aligned with the needs of the schools. School safety and school environments are improving, showing all children that they deserve and are worthy of protection and care. The list of improvements is long, but it is by no means complete. There are many challenges. On Saturday, I spent time with a family in Tembelihle, Ward 8, Johannesburg. It was a single mother whose eldest daughter was unable to find a placement because of her special needs. It was also evidence, and there is also evidence of abuse by the community on this little girl. And I was reminded of a terrible tendency that predators often target developing girls and boys with special needs so that they can misuse their disabilities to gaslight these young people when they choose to speak up. In the same region, schools like Altmont, Oakdale, Apex, Lenasia Secondary, and Fred Norman, to name a few, are all at double capacity and share issues like bullying, violence, gangsterism, and malnutrition. Thankfully, in this region, there are 1 or 2 schools that are working. It shows that it only takes dedication and a dedicated SGB that is not politicized to function, to allow a school to function. The school that I'd like to mention is St. George's Primary School, and I thought it was a private school, but it is just a well-run public school. Further out in Johannesburg, there is a reasonably newly built school built to accommodate special needs learners with state-of-the-art facilities. However, the Select Committee found Nokutula Center and Special Needs School in dangerous disrepair. These issues are not limited to Johannesburg, and the burden is heavy. And as stated, it will take time and money well spent to address the urgent needs like nutrition, sports at schools, psychosocial support, infrastructure, transport, curriculum, bullying, and safety. But based on the actual shifts over the past year, as a Democratic Alliance, we welcome this budget, as it places learners in the center, and it addresses the greatest and most tragic of inequalities. Additionally, we urge education MECs who report to their premiers to step up, join hands. It will take the whole of society. The road ahead is clear, the burden is heavy, but we look forward to seeing the growth in this department as they fulfill their duty of care to the children of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable du Plessis, for your articulate input. The next speaker is going to be on the visual platform. It is Her Honorable, the Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Muhaule. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and I want to thank the Chairperson for allowing me to do it virtual. Greetings to you, greetings to the Minister of Basic Education, Ms. Siviwe Gwarube. Greetings to members of the executive councils of various provinces that are there in the meeting, members of the Select Committee, members of the NCOP, stakeholders in the basic education sector. Greetings to our hardworking Director General of the Department of Basic Education, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. Good afternoon. I don't know if I'm audible, Chair.
Definitely audible. Just turn off your
thank you so much.
Video. Yeah.
Chair, I wish to take this solemn moment. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I said I wanted to take this opportunity, the moment, to invite honorable members to join me in honoring the memory of the former Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. David Tabete Mabuza, a leader who stood resolute in his unwavering support for education as a cornerstone of national development. It's with great honor and humility that I stand before this august House in support of Budget Vote 16 tabled by the Minister of Basic Education, Ms. Siviwe Gwarube. House Chair, the budget vote we support today is not just about rents and cents and politics. It's about investing in the value system that sets up the social fabric and the soul of the nation. It's about ensuring that every child, regardless of their social standing or geographic location, has a fair and equal opportunity to interface with the learning process the country can offer. I'm reminded of the truth in Natin Namdio's statement: a country where education is not valued, not merely as a formality, but as a source of national pride, can never be poor. This philosophy resonates deeply with the spirit and intent of this budget vote. It is a budget driven by transformation agenda. As I proceed with this policy and budget statement, Honorable House Chairperson, it's worth noting that this year marks 31 years since the dawn of our democracy in our country, South Africa. As we celebrate this milestone, it would be remiss of me not to remind this House of the remarkable legacy of the democratic government that was established in 1994, which has for 3 decades worked tirelessly to dismantle the fragmented and racially exclusionary education system inherited from the previous regime. The interventions and reforms we witness today, though not without challenges, have been deliberate, people-centered, and grounded in the lived realities of the poor and working class majority in the Republic of South Africa. In a historic milestone, South Africa marks 70 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter, a revolutionary document that not only laid the foundation of our democratic ideals, but also fundamentally shaped the trajectory of our education system. Its enduring legacy continues to influence the South Africa we envisioned, and a nation rooted in the principles of equality, access, inclusion, and the right to learn as envisaged in Kliptown in 1955. Post the advent of democracy, the democratic government has boldly confronted the legacy of apartheid's inspired education policies. We have steadfastly replaced them with progressive, inclusive education frameworks aimed at restoring the dignity of all learners across the board and improving access to quality basic education. Our progressive and sustained provision of the National School Nutrition Program within the sector today serves a total of 9 million learners daily with nutritious meals since 2009. This program has positively impacted upon the ability of children to learn by combating malnutrition, reducing hunger, and improving school attendance as a statement to our commitment towards this public discourse. In some schools, as a sector, we have begun pioneering with the provision of up to 3 meals a day, with the intention to ameliorate the stubborn triple challenge. In 2015, the Cabinet of the Republic of South Africa approved the National Learner Transport Policy as a bold step in advancing the government's pro-poor agenda to advance towards the access to educational facilities, which would otherwise have been hard to reach and devoid of any aspiration or motivation. This is the Learner Transport Program, which supports learners residing a distance of 3 to 5 kilometers from the adjacent schools, including those living with disabilities. To date, this inclusive initiative has benefited over 710,000 learners, affirming our commitment to removing barriers to education and promoting social justice. Since 1994, this government has made significant strides in addressing the legacy of inherited inappropriate school infrastructure, prioritizing the eradication of mud schools and the replacement of pit latrines. Out of 1,000 schools initially constructed with inappropriate materials, significant progress has been made over time with the expansion of the infrastructure program in 2011 through the ASIDI. 510 schools were identified as inappropriate. We acknowledge the determined efforts and strides made by the sector. This number has since been reduced to 331 and counting. While the complete elimination of such challenges remains ongoing, the sector continues to make determined progress towards creating safe, dignified, and conducive learning environment for all learners and educators. Since 2011 to date, the Department of Basic Education developed, prints, and distributes grade R to 9 workbooks to address poor learner performance in literacy and numeracy, as our minister indicated. The key factors leading to their development were, among others, poor learning outcome, resource inequality, curriculum support, and most importantly, these resources played a crucial role as part of the COVID-19 response as they provided structured learning material when schools were disrupted. In addition to the grade 1 to 6 home language in 11 official languages and grade 1 to 9 mathematics workbooks, where the grade 1 to 3 is in 11 official languages. These workbooks include grade 1 to 3 life skills in 11 official languages, grade 1 to 6 English first additional languages, as well as grade R workbooks. The improvement of learning outcome in the sector hinges on many aspects such as curriculum implementation and support, infrastructure, teacher development, and most importantly, the provisioning of high quality textbooks and stationery. House Chair, I must place on record before this August House that the introduction of grade R into our education system began in 2001 without any dedicated fiscal resource allocation. The ECD programs have remained outside the formal education system and without proper support or regulations. However, the progress made thus far reflects that we are on course towards our desired destination. The total grade R budget for the total allocated budget for grade R in public schools has seen a significant increase, rising to 6.7 billion for the year 2025-2026 financial year, affirming unwavering commitment to strengthening early childhood education in the country. House Chair, I'm pleased to report that the registration has now been activated in all 9 provinces, with thousands of sites already on board. The target to register 10,000 ECD centers this year will not only improve quality and safety, it will help us map real demand, track coverage, and plan better for universal access to grade R. South Africa's participation in global studies like PEARLS and TIMSS has highlighted foundational learning gaps, which Minister spoke about, especially in early grades. However, the country's nationally standardized assessment system now enables earlier detection and targeted interventions. This cannot be done in 1 year. It takes time to observe those signs. The early grade reading assessment is fully implemented across all provinces, with 2024 results informing teacher training and resource planning for 2025. Chair, this investment will be strategically channeled into curriculum planning, resource development, and meticulous teacher deployment monitoring to ensure that every child receives quality foundational learning. Central to this vision is the National Post-Provisioning Norms, which guarantees equitable needs-based teacher allocation across schools, factoring enrollment, subject demand, and local context. In this 2025-26 financial year, the department will complete a long overdue review of these norms with a specific focus on ensuring adequate teacher supply for the foundation phase, accounting for multi-grade and rural school realities, and addressing inefficiencies in post-distribution and post risks. May I hasten, Honorable House members, Chairperson, to acknowledge and highlight the work being done by the department in enhancing the education facility management system, guide provinces to use this system to identify sanitation backlogs, overcrowded schools and temporary structures, ensure that education infrastructure grant is targeted to produce better delivery rates. It gives me courage that the department has commenced its review of the regulations related to the minimum uniform norms and standards for public school infrastructure, which will be realized by public comment later this year. These revised norms will clarify accountability.
No, Chair, point of order, Chair.
Mechanisms, strengthen enforcement tools, and ensure clear, realistic, and phased infrastructure commitments from provinces. We cannot grow public confidence in our system without being honest about performance. The recent inclusion of real-time data, financial dashboards, and portals.
They must work. We are not here to call people.
Honorable Telekes, I think the ICT has done its job, but what is critical here, it is unacceptable that they can sleep on their job. Because when I call for the Deputy Minister to be cut off, they should have done that immediately. I'll speak with the Secretary to the Council of what has transpired to this afternoon, because it cannot be acceptable. If you are allocated time, it must just be like that across the board. So the next speaker on the podium is going to be...
I said I raised the point of order, Chair. The least you could do is give me the opportunity.
All right. Over to you. I've given you an opportunity. Please rise on a point of order. Be specific in the rule on which you are rising on, and then...
Thank you, Chair. It seems like there are many chairs in the House today. It looks like there's many people chairing this in this House today. I don't know why. But Chair, something like that should never ever happen again, especially because you are the Chair of the House. If we continue this way, Chair, can I get protection, please? I'm allowed to be on this podium. I've been elected to be here. I have every right to talk.
Please don't disrupt. When the person is rising on a point of order, give him or her a chance to raise that point of order. After that, deal with that. Raise a point of order. Because you can raise the rule or the principle thereof. The rule or the principle, please. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. I think you've outlined the principle, but honestly, Chairperson, the order of this House is really not on. Thank you.
All right. I've already articulated that before. You are also becoming a co-chairperson in the process because that's what I said. But as I said, I made a ruling here that I'll consult the secretary to the NCOP so that they can explain how come it was the ICT sleeping on his job when they were doing that. So I think the ruling was adequate. I don't expect any other point of order around that. The next honorable member to come on the podium is Honorable Majola from the KZN.
Chairperson, honorable members, ministers, deputy ministers, and MECs. Chairperson, before I go to the figures, rands and cent contained in the budget vote 16, the basic allocation spreadsheet, let me first borrow the words from the minister from her opening remarks. I quote, "Together, we have a responsibility to create an education system that, one, uplifts individuals, and two, produces the skills needed to grow economic growth and strengthens the nation." Honorable Chairperson, the current status
of our country today, unemployment rate is in a crisis stage, where we're sitting at 43.1%, with youth jobless sitting at 72.4%. The economy of the country, Honorable Chair, is around 1.6% against the MDP GP growth targeted at 3% by 2030. Honorable Chair, we are sitting with an alarming rate of crime related to drugs. This is totally against the department and the minister's will. Further, Chairperson, the minister called for an improved quality of education that our learner received. I quote, "Sisuka kude singumzansi Afrika, sisuka esikhathini sobandlululo lapho imfundo ephucukile yayingatholwa ngabantu abamnyama." Chairperson, arising from that era, in 30 years today, we are still characterized by crumbling infrastructure, overcrowded classrooms, and relatively poor education outcomes. Chairperson, we are just coming from a portfolio committee where provinces were briefing us about their progress in terms of the implementation of their budget. 2 provinces, the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape province, indicated to a portfolio committee that they are unable to implement the PELA Act, which was signed, and it became a law in September last year. They indicated that the PELA Act implementation is not funded. Chairperson, when the minister referred to where we come from, let me add the meat on the skeleton. We were regulated by Bantu Education Act of 1953, which contained on that act the equitable spending on South African child wise followed. In the budget of 1975-76 financial year, the government under that act spent 644 on a white child, 189 on an Indian student, 139 on each child of a colored student, and then lousy 42 rands on a black child. Chairperson, quoting from what the minister said with regards to the education that is building the nation, let's do the benchmarking. Our BRICS partners. Honorable Chair, India and China, through their strong focus on science, technology, engineering and mathematics, which is called STEM system, and 9 years compulsory education, which is funded by the government. They are the best motor vehicle producers. They are the best IT component producers. I'm talking about the Jetto vehicle, Omoto, and Havals. The current China economic, it's projected at 5% in 2025. And India ranked as 4th largest economy in the world in 2025, forecast at the growth of 8%. Honorable Chair, let us focus on our 30 years in the democratic government and its current education system. We produce a community size chairperson of our youth sleeping under the shelter General Mkhwanazi mentioned Inanda as a drug hotspot just on Sunday. Our youth in the Brea Street in Durban, they are sitting under the bridges. He never mentioned Azalea. He never mentioned the Willow Fontaine in Pietermaritzburg. Chairperson, it will be safe for me to say almost all township, our youth are subject to the drug and substance abuse. Therefore, this means, Chairperson, there is a slight difference between the apartheid and the current government in terms of molding the future of our youth through the education. The MK Party, Chairperson, does not support this budget. This budget does not serve the people, but it only serves the official, the consultants, while our children remain in poverty. In reality, Chairperson, over 1,680 schools in Eastern Cape still have pit toilets. Children in those provinces relieve themselves in bushes. The department claims that the infrastructure backlog is under control. The Accelerated School Infrastructure Delivery Initiative, ASIDI, was supposed to articulate unsafe structures by 2022, but we are in 2025 and we count. In Limpopo, 443 schools still lack reliable water supply. In Mpumalanga, learners packed into one class, 80 students, and 260 schools are overcrowded, which is against the ratio that the acceptable ratio that is approved by the department. Honorable Chair, looking at the facts, the APP, Annual Performance Plan, the National School Nutrition Program is budgeted at 8.5 billion for 2025. Yet in KwaZulu-Natal, over 1 million children went to school without meal for a week in 2024 because suppliers failed to deliver. In Eastern Cape, some schools received only maize meal and salt for a week. That is not a nutrition. In fact, it is a starvation.
Honorable Majola, I'm bringing to your attention to Rule 60 that you can only speak up to the prescribed time you're given.
Oh, okay. Chairperson, towards my closure.
No, you are closed. The time has expired. Yes, expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Majola, for your input. The next person who's given a chance to come and articulate his policy his policy on the podium is going to be Honorable Sibande from Mpumalanga.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, fellow South Africans. Our mandate remains clear as African National Congress to build a schooling system that is inclusive, equitable, safe, and future-oriented. One that provides each child, irrespective of their background, with the tools of realize their full potential. The ANC support the budget. Honorable members, the state of our school infrastructure is not just a matter of bricks and mortar. It is a matter of dignity, justice, and safety. The continued presence of pit latrines, unsafe classrooms, unreliable water supply, and broken fencing in some of our schools reflects the historical backlog we inherited. But it is a backlog we are committed to eradicating. The ANC welcome the continued allocation of funds through the Education Infrastructure Grant and the equitable share towards infrastructure improvement. However, we must emphasize that these funds must be strategically targeted at the most critical backlogs. Eradication of pit lanterns, replacing them with safe and hygienic sanitation facilities. Secondly, provision to a reliable water supply, especially in rural schools, is non-negotiable. Installation and maintenance of secure fencing to protect against vandalism and theft of school property. Construction of new classrooms and schools to address overcrowding with adequate provision of desk chairs and school furniture, upgrading unsafe school infrastructure, and ensuring schools are equipped with libraries, laboratories, and information and communication technology facilities. We call upon provinces to make full, efficient use of their infrastructure budgets, accountable project monitoring, and community involvement in school building projects. Must be strengthened and ensure we build schools that are dignified, child-friendly, and conducive to learning. Chairperson, no child can learn in fear. No teacher can teach in fear. A safe school is the foundation of quality education. Our schools, particularly in urban and township areas, are under threat from bullying, gangsterism, violence, and substance abuse. These social ills rob our learners of their right to quality education and their future. The budget must support measures to intensify the rollout of school safety framework, strengthen partnership with the South African Police Services, and deploy school safety officers where needed. Moreover, there is a need to work closely with school governing bodies, community organizations, and local governments to combat antisocial behavior and promote value of Ubuntu, respect, and discipline in our schools. Programs focusing on mental health support and conflict resolution and physical services must be scaled up. Safe schools are not luxury. They are constitutionally imperative. Let us invest in securing the future by creating safe spaces for learning. Chairperson, let me borrow some words from some philosophers. Open quote. Sometimes people can't reciprocate because they can't give you what they can't give themselves. Those who are at war with themselves can't give you peace. Those who betray themselves can't give you loyalty. Those who lie to themselves can't give you honesty. See them as they are, not you wish them to be. Chairperson. Sometimes some people, they are shifting the blame as if the African National Congress have done 1, 2, 3. They forgot what we have inherited. i-DA kufanele ikuqonde ukuthi inhlangano yayo ingoqhakijani ongangokuthi njalo nje ibongoshishilizi ekuphazamiseni izinhlelo eziletha inguquko nentuthuko ikakhulukazi esizweni esimpisholo kulingabathi yakwethu. i-DA yaziwa umhlaba wonke ukuthi ivele ishaya ingwiji qhwebu kuze zonke izibophezelo zayo. Zolo lokhu enye yenhlekelelo eshaqisa umzimba yilapho umholi we-DA uHelen Zille walutha khona uDokotela Ramphela ngesidikadika sengculathi kaKhiss. Udokotela wenkosi wabanjwa isihlokazana esabangela ukuthi abanjwe isithongwana akwathi lapho ephaphama i-DA ibisishobadele wonke amalunga enhlangano yakhe kwazise obala ukuthi inhlangano yabo oqadolo lembalambulula isela lantsondo. In matric results, the Western Cape experienced a dip during a COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic exposed the deep-rooted inequality within the province. Learners who were to affluent schools were able to continue with their learning via visual platforms, while the rural and township schools were left behind. This had an effect on the overall results of the province. The province has tried to catch up over the years. However, at 86.6% in 2024, it trails the top performing provinces against Free State, KZN, Gauteng, and remains slightly below national trend line. Last year, Western Cape government announced that they are cutting the education budget by 2.5 billion. The budget cut affects administration, curriculum, and infrastructure. This will have direct impact on learners' transport, particularly for learners in the rural areas and township. In the presentation by the Western Cape government by February 6, 2025, more than 1,586 learners were still waiting to be placed in schools. The learners were from grade 1 to grade 8, a clear indication of the systematic problem of the placement mechanism. A month into the academic year and learning were still in limbo. The budget cuts resulted in a reduction of 2,407 teachers posts for the 2025 academic year. They increased the learners educator ratio from 33.66 in 2024 to 39.49 for the current year. Learners' transport in Western Cape is of grave concern, particularly rural and township schools. We still remember the horrific accident that claims the lives of the 5 learners in 2023. Learners in rural areas have to walk for miles and access education, and when they get to classrooms, the classrooms are crowded. And we know this has a negative impact on a child's learning processes and teachers being able to deliver a lesson as they have to cater for overcrowding. The idea that all learners have an equal opportunity to success is a myth in the Western Cape. It is visually impossible for quintile 1 up to 3 schools to achieve a 100% pass rate under the current condition of overcrowded classrooms, chronic teacher shortage, and pervasive gang violence that spills into school grounds, making learning nearly impossible. The DA has failed to address these fundamental challenges. Predominantly white former Model C schools enjoy small class sizes and optimal teacher to learner ratios, giving them the structural advantage. Meanwhile, the vast majority of schools in poor working class communities are overcrowded, under the resourced and short of teachers. This is not an equal education system. It is a rigged system, one that entrenches inequality. The DA education policies have proven to be exclusionary, elitistic, and ultimately effective matric results are in decline. Inequality is growing, and poor learners are being left behind. That this is not a model of good governance; it's a model of mismanagement and neglect. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Sibande. All right, the Honorable delegates, the next speaker on the podium is going to be Honorable Chilwane, the MEC from Gauteng Maboneng. Over.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Let's, thank you, Chair, once more. Honorable delegates, members of the
Just a little bit. I see this thing was running even before we spoke. What's happening with the timing? All right. Please correct it so that start at 10. It must be 10, please. All right. It's okay.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you once more. The Chair and the people of South Africa. Today we gather to debate the basic education budget. We stand at a defining moment for our nation's future. Education remains the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. Yet we find ourselves confronting a funding crisis that threatens the very foundation upon which our society is built. It's true today when it says education is a powerful driver of development and one of the strongest instruments to reduce poverty and promote equality. It is a necessary foundation for a prosperous economy. Therefore, honourable members, our basic education sector faces unprecedented pressures. Historical inequities continue to cast long shadows, while growing learner populations strain our resources. Recent World Bank analysis paints a sobering picture. Despite the remarkable progress we've made since the end of apartheid, about 80% of our grade 4 learners still cannot properly understand what they read. This learning crisis unfolds as our education system must prepare to accommodate an additional 1.2 million learners by 2030. The fiscal reality we confront is equally bleak. As the Finance Minister, Kodongwane, reminded us in his budget speech that we are spending 1.2 billion per day servicing our debt, which is more than we allocate to any single frontline service, including education. This sobering truth underscores why every rand we invest in education must count, must work, and must deliver results. But today I stand before you with hope that this year's budget tells a dramatically different story, a story of renewed commitment and historic investment. As the Minister might have outlined earlier, the numbers speak for themselves, and most importantly, the early childhood development has emerged as a true victor in this budget. In Gauteng, we have translated this investment into tangible results. We have appointed 4,333 grade R practitioners, with an impressive 72% of them holding NQF Level 6 qualifications. Our mass registration drive continues to bring more ECD centers into compliance, while our comprehensive resources materials now serve centers in all South African languages. Through partnerships with UNISA and the Northwest University, we have provided capacity building for over 876 practitioners, ensuring our youngest learners receive the quality education they deserve. Our commitment to quality extends throughout the education journey. In the foundation phase, we have revolutionized reading instruction through targeted African languages proficiency assessment and our comprehensive general education and training reading program. The Reading Blitz and Read to Lead campaign have sparked a love for learning across our province, while our Pendulani Literacy Quiz distributed nearly 900 books to schools across our districts. And the results speak for themselves with the consistent growth in our matric pass rate, where even the previous year we've achieved over 50% bachelor pass in the learners, and we've also achieved 90% in 3 districts and over 80% in all our districts for 3 years consecutively. Innovation drives our approach to education transformation. We have launched and gazetted additional schools of specialization, bringing our total to 36 schools of specialization across 5 critical disciplines. Through dynamic partnership with industry leaders, our learners have completed agri-tech workshops, manufacturing project with EPOL, and excelled in Sasol Energy Innovations competition. Digital transformation accelerates learning across our province. We have distributed over 60,000 learner devices preloaded with digital content to secondary ICT schools. Through the remarkable Siavula education program, 33,012 learners have completed 2.3 million practice exercises in mathematics and physical sciences. And this demonstrates how technology can amplify educational outcomes. Our commitment to inclusive education remains unwavering. Special schools serve as the resource centers, procuring assistant devices and providing crucial assessment through our streamlined social impact assessment framework. We continue expanding ICT access and electronic assistive devices while implementing the Global Education Conference Integrated Project across all our technical occupational curriculum schools. Safety and nutrition form the bedrock of effective learning. We have deployed community patrollers in over 1,500 schools, equipped them with essential safety equipment. Our National School Nutrition Program has exceeded all targets. We are currently feeding 1.7 million learners in our province, of which 1.5 are covered through the quintile 1, 2, 3. So 4 and 5, the province is covering themselves. We are currently providing 228,000 learners with scholar transport in the province. And this despite persistent fiscal constraints. Gauteng's unwavering commitment to education science through the 2025-26 budget, where we were able to secure 68 billion for education with a substantial increase of 3.1 billion. And this demonstrates the ANC's government to steadfast recognition of education as our highest national priority. Yet we must be honest about the challenges ahead. While we welcome the additional amount of money that we've received to keep our teachers in the classroom, we need to recognize that more investment remains essential to address critical staffing shortages and employ the hundreds of qualified teacher graduates currently seeking opportunities to serve. Honourable members, the funding crisis in our education sector extends far beyond immediate academic outcomes. It threatens the prospects of an entire generation. We cannot permit budget constraints to undermine our capacity to deliver critical skills development for our economy desperately needs for growth and transformation. This is our moment of truth. The significant budget increases demonstrates government's clear recognition of education's pivotal importance in building our nation's future. Yet challenges persist. They demand our continued vigilance, innovation, and unwavering commitment. Therefore, we need to unite to transform this crisis into opportunity. It remains our collective responsibility to guarantee that every child, regardless of the background or circumstance, has access to quality education. It's our duty to ensure that educational institutions receive the resources they need to excel. The remarkable achievements I've shared today prove beyond doubt that with adequate resources and unwavering commitment, we can transform lives, communities, and our entire nation. Education remains our greatest investment in the future. an investment we simply cannot afford to compromise. Together, we will build brighter, more prosperous future that every South African child deserves. Together, we will ensure that education continues to serve as the great equalizer, the pathway to opportunity, and the foundation upon which we build our rainbow nation's destiny. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Honorable MEC, for your input. Just before I call the next speaker, I'll just want to bring to the attention of this August House that this August House has its own rules, and then we'll be expected, all of us, to respect them. Basically, all of us in this house were led by the premiers of the various provinces. So if the premier is not in, the next person is the member of the executive council of that province. So I'd like to have Honorable Sambata to come and occupy here. He said he's available to lead in the Northwest. He must come. Here, Honorable Sambata, I know that you're in the next debate. Honorable El Sabe is also in the next debate. He's been here all along. Please, come on this side. Right, and then the next delegate who's going to come to the podium is Honorable Aris from Bukoni Bupirima. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, the economic freedom fighters reject Budget Vote 16 for basic education. We reject this budget vote because it once again demonstrates a perpetuation of this government's long record of neglect of the basic education sector, and by extension, it neglect of the lives and future of millions of our children whose futures depend on their ability to acquire decent education today. South Africa's commitment to educate is enshrined in its constitution, guaranteeing every child the right to basic education. However, the recent budget allocations raise a concern about this government's ability to fulfill its mandate. While approximately 76% of provincial education budgets are on salaries, this budget leaves 24%, 29 billion is required to address critical infrastructure backlogs, including the eradication of unsafe pit latrines and the provision of essential facilities. While more than 13,000 schools require additional toilets and over 6,000 lack sustainable water supply. Chairperson, it is also concerning to note how there are still schools with pit toilets in provinces such as Eastern Cape, Limpopo and KZN, where schools that are still operating without proper toilets, together with unused pit toilets that still have to be demolished, and how this department has year in and year out repeatedly missed its own deadline set to eradicate pit toilets and repeatedly extended. Minister, how many more children must drown in pit latrine toilets before you actually provide safe and sanitation facilities at all schools for our learners? Not only has the department failed to deliver basic infrastructure, the need for conducive education of our children, it has also failed to ensure that it employs a sufficient number of qualified teachers to teach learners at acceptable teacher-learning ratio. In KZN, Over 11,000 teaching posts remains unfilled due to budget constraints, leading to larger class sizes and diminished individual attention to learners. Lest this lead to overcrowded classrooms and diminished individual attention to students. Many schools have classrooms with 40 or more learners, and some even have 60 or more. Such overcrowding negatively affect learners' ability to hear the teacher, concentrate, and participate in the class. Real time per learner spending has also declined, affecting the availability of textbooks and other essential materials. Budget cuts has also resulted in reduced allocation for learning material, with some schools lacking adequate textbooks and teaching aids. Schools in underprivileged areas, particularly no school fees, are disproportionately affected by budget cuts, exacerbating educational inequalities. Early childhood development across all provinces faces severe critical challenges that undermine access, quality, and outcomes for young children. Rural and informal settlements have limited ECD services, and many children in these areas don't attend any ECD program before grade R. That's the reality. Thousands of centers operate without adequate water, toilet supply, safe structures, or learning space. A large portion of ECD practitioners are unqualified or underqualified, which affect the quality of early childhood learning. Strict and complex registration requirements exclude many community-based centers from funding or formal recognition. Government subsidies for ECD centers are often delayed, inconsistent, or not aligned with inflation and the cost of care. There's fragmented responsibility between national, provincial departments, and gaps remain in aligning ECD with health, nutrition, and social services. Chair, it is also with shock that we learn through written parliamentary questions to the Minister that there are no single special needs ECD facility in the country. Many ECD centers lack the necessary infrastructure, such as ramps, accessible bathrooms, and adapted play areas, making it difficult for children with physical disabilities to participate. Many children are unprepared for formal schooling due to poor early stimulation and learning exposures. The education system and teachers in South Africa face daily challenges such as corruption, underfunding, and political and racial instability. Chairperson, I get disturbed by these people on my left here. They are making a noise here.
All right, continue.
The ECD must get all the benefits like any other school. Subsidies, school fees, transport, feeding programs, curriculum-based education from the Department of Education. And as the economic freedom fighters, we condemn the continued failure of this department to effectively tackle the growing crisis of school bullying across South Africa. Every week, reports emerge of learners being physically assaulted, emotionally tormented, and in extreme cases, pushes to suicide. Yet the department remains reactionary and indifferent. Bullying is not a mere discipline issue. It is a deep systematic failure reflecting an unsafe, under-resourced, and neglected learning environment. The department's silence and lack of intervention reflect a broader failure to prioritize learners' safety and mental health. Their policies are either absent, outdated, or not implemented. Schools are left to fend for themselves without clear guidance, monitoring, or support. The economic freedom fighters raise serious concern over the neglect of mental health in South African schools. Learners face rising levels of stress, depression, anxiety, and trauma, and yet the basic education system remain unprepared to provide the necessary psychological support. The Department of Basic Education has failed to prioritize mental health. There is a shocking shortage of school-based counselors and psychosocial professionals, especially in townships and rural schools. With teachers not equipping to identify or respond to mental health challenges, learners suffer in silence, and too often mental health issues are dismissed as discipline problems. Climate change is increasingly affecting schools across the country, particularly in vulnerable rural and low-income urban areas. Learners and teachers dealing with repeated displacement and disaster experience mental health challenges without adequate support from the department. Violence in schools remains a serious and escalating problem affecting learners, teachers, and the broader school community. Teachers are increasingly victims of verbal abuse, threats, and even physical assault by learners or outsiders. Cases of harassment and assaults within schools, sometimes by staff or older learners, have highlighted failures in the child protection system. The failure of the Department of Education to have safety measures in place resolve that knives and some instances guns have been found on school premises, raising safety concerns. Chairperson, gangsters use schools as recruiting grounds or sites of intimidation, making it unsafe for learners and educators because of failure of safety measures in schools. As the economic freedom fighters, we believe that the root cause to these challenges are limited psychosocial support, ineffective discipline policies, inconsistent enforcement of safety protocols, and the lack of trained school safety officers. The government must prioritize ECD by integrating early learning centers fully into the basic education system and allocating funds to expand grade R assessment. Truly invest in improved regulations, infrastructure upgrades, and professional development of ECD workers to ensure that every child has a fair start to life. Invest in infrastructure such as the installation of solar panels on fencing upgrade aimed to enhance the learning environment in school. Deploy professional counselors to our schools. Integrate mental health education into the curriculum, or collaborate with the Department of Health to offer accessible psychological services in schools. Partner up with community and mental health organizations. Provide immediate support for our families and affected learners. Foster strong school community partnerships and expand life skills and conflict resolution programs. Yes, strengthen school safety policies and infrastructure. Legislate changes such as the Basic Education Law Amendment Act, which seeks to address systematic issues and promote inclusivity within the education sector. Sadly, the Department of Basic Education is not concerned with any of these things. Therefore, the EFF reject this budget. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Honorable Aris. The next speaker is going to be on the visual platform. Is the MEC for Education from Limpopo, the home of Mapungubwe National Park. Over to you, MEC, in the visual platform.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And also let me greet the honorable members of the House of the NCOP, the Minister of Basic Education, the Deputy Minister, my colleagues, honorable MECs, and all in attendance. And I want to take this time, Honorable Chair, and join the other people around South Africa for passing our condolences to all of us as a nation for the passing on of our former Deputy President. And also, we do this because he was also part of us when he was MEC of Education and the change that he brought to the lives of our learners. Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, allow me to say on behalf of Limpopo today, I stand to support the presentation of the budget and support the budget as presented by the Honorable Minister. And we say the budget has been a bold budget speech with a vision, and we look at it as a blueprint for foundational learning, infrastructure justice, and learner safety in Limpopo, where as a province, we are accountable for 1.8 million features that rest in our hands. And we are forging this weapon with agency and precision. And I want to join my colleagues who have already indicated that indeed education is the most powerful weapon to change the world. We want to also say the SAFE initiative is a national call to dismantle indignity. And in Limpopo, we are responding to the issues of the pit toilets, the pit latrines, by building with bricks, mortar, and also displaying the political will by the deployees of the African National Congress. We have identified pit toilets which were identified under SAFE, which were 391, and only one remain, and we are busy eliminating the leftovers of what needs to be done. And we want to applaud the budget because it speaks on the storm recovery, on the schools that were damaged during the storms. And in Limpopo, we are appreciating that 100 million has been allocated to rebuild the schools, and all children deserve it, that their dignity is also protected. Honorable Chair, the new tech-equipped schools and upgrades to rural schools with laboratories and admin blocks are already over 70%, which we are targeting schools in villages, because we believe that a child in a village or in a rural area deserves the same dignity and respect as a child in the towns. And this is spatial justice in action. Honorable Chair, on ECD focus, we are aligning ourselves with the investment. Critically, compulsory grade R under Section 3 of the Bella Act is yielding transformative results. There has been an enrollment surge of 128,721 learners in 2025, which means that we were able to raise our numbers from the 2024 numbers, which were 120, by 7.8 thousand, and which is actually a 99.6% of our learners that we have in our primary schools where we offer grade R. And in those schools where we are offering grade R, only 9 are outstanding. And we are investigating why those schools are still left out, but we are acting upon our ECD investment. And we want to attribute the higher number of registration of ECDs to the campaign that was done by DBE and us as a province on mass registration. We are aligning with the budget vote regarding practitioner investment. We are working on transitioning the ECD teams and from part-time to full-time and to full conditions. We have awarded numerous bursaries to unqualified practitioners for B.Ed foundation phase degrees, thereby professionalizing these critical cadres. This is how we build foundations, access, compliance, and investing in people. We thank the parents and all stakeholders for heeding the call when we talked about mass registration for our ECDs. Honorable Chair, on the readiness of Bella in our province, all public schools across the 10 districts have been trained comprehensively on Bella implementation on Section 3, 4, and 5, which we have focused on the issues of accessibility through admission, the issues of accessibility through language, the issues of accessibility through governance, where we are able to work with all the stakeholders. This is the year of teacher development and academic excellence. And in that, the 2025 in Limpopo has been defined by this agenda. And bursaries have been given to practitioners so that then we can be able to start somewhere to build the teacher development system that we all look forward to. We are building a pipeline of qualified foundation phase teachers. Educators are being trained in robotics and advanced science pedagogy through our MST grant to ensure leadership excellence. SMTs are being continuously drilled on curriculum leadership and Bella compliance, and also the most important part of it is also on financial management. Honorable Chair, the budget vote presented and pronouncement on the safety mandate mirrors our resolve. We confront risk head on. Safe schools are a significant priority, and as such, partnership with SAPS, parents, and communities will help us secure those environments of learning. Inclusive education will also be on our radar. More than 30 million in line with the previous year's budget will help provide therapists and assistive devices at special schools such as Phumelele and other special schools that we have in the province. And we say this when we talk about accessibility and safety of our learners. We know that as a province, more than 1 billion serve as a nutrition shield that feeds 1.4 million learners daily, and we also keep our girl child in class. On the infrastructure budget as presented is welcomed, because in the province of Limpopo, we are also prioritizing special schools, and we are also prioritizing to close the sanitation gap that exists. And we are making sure we also prioritize maintenance. Because when we talk about infrastructure, we do not only talk about building new schools, but we also speak about maintaining what we have built through the 30 years of our democracy. We want to change the narrative of the rural schools to bring them brick and mortar the same way that you have in town schools. And we want to appreciate the infrastructure budget because it continues to create jobs around electricians, plumbers, and builders as part of us talking to our own learners to say, these are also careers that you can follow in your own life. Our urgent appeal, Honorable Chair, also goes to the National Treasury to expedite the disaster relief for storm-damaged schools. You will remember that we had a second phase of storm-damaged schools because of the unfortunate weather patterns that we continue to experience. And we are saying, as we support the budget, We are also talking on the filling of vacancies as presented by the Honorable Minister. That filling of vacancy is also part of our agenda, because when we talk about academic excellence, it's critical that we have got professionals in the classroom, we have got professionals in the spaces in our circuit, we have got professionals as curriculum advisors. We also have professionals in our offices to be able to direct our curriculum to be that of inclusive education and all that. We cannot achieve to deal with the budget if we do not appreciate the participation of the stakeholders, of the private partners, and also the majority of parents that critically invest in the learners, so that then when they come to our schools, we also augment what the parents can be able to do. Honorable Speaker,
MEC,
our budget for infrastructure.
Honorable MEC, thank you for your wonderful input, but your time has expired.
Thank you so much.
All right. The next speaker will also be on the virtual platform. Is Honorable MEC of Education from Bukoni Purima, Honorable Musumi. Over to you. Well.
Honorable Chair, Honorable members of the NCOP, Honorable Minister of Basic Education, and Honorable Deputy Minister, MECs present, Dumelang Bagaetsho. It is indeed an honor for me to be standing before this august House as part of this debate on behalf of the Department of Education from a predominantly rural province, the Northwest Province. Honorable members, let us all agree that today, for a change, we are debating. Let us all put our political affiliation aside, but rather debate with good intentions. Unless if we are disputing the fact that education is a societal matter, le Motswana o buile a re ngwana sejo wa tlhakanelo. Honorable Chair, allow me to confirm that as basic education, we are one of the sectors that is working tirelessly to ensure that the right to education is realized for every learner in our province, regardless of their background, including those with disabilities. Honorable Chair, Northwest Province is one of the disadvantaged provinces compared to other provinces due to population size, which goes with formula allocation in terms of budget. But what I can assure you is that still no learner is left behind. Let us also agree that inclusion education is not a favor, but rather justice in action. Honorable Chair, as a province, we have affirmed without compromise the Freedom Charter principle through mega farm schools in 3 districts out of 4, where now I'm happy to announce that for this financial year, finally the Department of Education in the Northwest will be building another mega farm school in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda district, which will be 18 schools in 1 school, which will focus mainly in agriculture. The Northwest Province has made significant strides in actualizing the Freedom Charter's principles that the doors of learning and culture shall be open to all. This commitment is exemplified by the establishment of 11 mega farm schools, which collectively serve a learner population of more than 5.3 learners in the province. These institutions, Chair, primarily serve learners from remote villages, farms, and under-resourced schools, thereby addressing historical and geographical barriers to equitable educational access. In recognition of the socio-economic challenges faced by these learners, the province ensures comprehensive support mechanisms. Learners are provided with transport every weekend at the end of each and every term between their homes and schools. Most of these learners stay in school hostels that provide free accommodation, daily meals, school uniform, and sanitary pads. Each facility is staffed with hostel caretakers and security personnel to ensure the safety and well-being of the learners. Most of these schools, Honorable Chair, are combined institutions offering education from grade R to grade 12, with 1 school designated as a further education and training center, catering from grade 8 to 12. Academically, these schools demonstrate commendable performance, consistently achieving pass rate between 85% and 100%. They implement curriculum aligned with the Department of Basic Education 3-3 model, offering academic, technical, and vocational pathways. For example, Moodville and Midverdingt and Nkgopotse Mega Farm schools provide specialized subjects in the technical, agricultural, and services streams. The impact of these schools extend beyond academic achievement. Moodville Farm School, for instance, Chair, has consistently presented learners at both provincial and national levels of the South African school choral estate fort over the past 3 years. Rivilo and Midverdingt Mega Farm schools have maintained a 100% learner performance rate for the previous 3 years, underscoring the effectiveness of the support and academic structures in place. Notably, these institutions have also contributed to human capital development within the province, having produced approximately 13 qualified teachers. Some of these graduates have been employed as education assistants, while others have been absorbed into the local mining sector. Honorable members, the Northwest Province investment in Mega Farm School represent a transformative intervention that not only expands access to quality education, but also fosters socio-economic upliftment, thereby giving practical expression to the ideals enshrined in the Freedom Charter. It also addresses the challenge of scholar transport, which can lead to dropouts and learners absenting themselves from school. Honorable Chair, the province has inspiring stories to share about our special schools. MMCB Special School in Dr. Rusuho Mutsimumpati District is the world champion in boys football, having won the International Special Olympic Summer Games held from the 6th to the 17th June last year, 2024, in Germany. Additionally, our learners participate in national and international events. For instance, Edwin Kamugelo Manji from Northwest School for the Deaf, as I'm speaking to you, is traveling to Tokyo to compete in athletics. Starting on Thursday, 20 learners from the province will represent the province at the National Winter Games in the categories of severe and mild intellectual disability. The province also took part in the Australian Football League Pacific Cup from the 11th to 18th November 2024 in Australia. Northwest was declared the overall winner of the South African Sports Association for Intellectually Impaired in 2025. A week ago, Chair, the province secured 2 first-place titles at SASKE competition in the special schools categories with Reuleboge and Ikalafeng special schools. So, honorable members, the province employs some of these learners within our educational institutions as household aides, departmental heads, and education assistants. Indeed, the Northwest Department of Education has transformed the provincial education system from one of exclusive into that embraces equity and support. Special schools now offer accessible infrastructure such as ramps and specialized transport. Chair, technology is transforming special education. Tools like text-to-speech and speech-to-text software empower learners to access education on equal footing. As a result, learner participation and performance have steadily improved over the past 3 years. Our special schools are not just progressing, they are excelling. In the 2024 National Senior Certificate results, Meerhof and Christiana School for the Blind achieved 100% pass rate, with Meerhof also obtaining 100% bachelor passes. The Northwest School for the Deaf improved from 0% in 2022 to 77% in 2024, with 2 learners earning bachelor passes. For 13 years, year 4 learners have received exit level certificate, opening pathways to employment. Our exit strategies include strong partnership with higher education institutions and businesses. These partners provide career guidance, internships, and employment opportunities. With support from SEDA Chair, learners complete accredited courses and pursue employment in government, business, and even self-run ventures like salon for massage and nail care. There are real success stories to tell, Chair. For example, There is Lekhogonolo Mafela, born without arms in 1992, used his feet to write. With special equipment and exam accommodation, he completed school and graduated from Northwest University, Bachelor of Commerce. Today, he works at the Department of Agriculture in Mahikeng in the Northwest. He is also a music producer, and he once collaborated with HP in 2012 and was nominated for Live Your Dreams Award. There's another child, Josephine Kilebogile Matlomape, born with Elna Danlos syndrome, completed her schooling without discrimination and an honors degree in psychology from University of South Africa, is now employed by the Department of Basic Education as a learner support agent. In conclusion, Chair, allow me to quote our legend, our former late Deputy President of South Africa, Comrade David Dabede, well known as the Black Cat Mabuza, when he said, "No child must be denied quality education because he or she is poor and living on a farm. May his soul rest in peace. The Northwest support the budget." I thank you.
Thank you, Bukoni Firima, for putting our children first. The next speaker on the podium is Honorable Mukai from the Northern Cape.
Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, and fellow South Africans, good day. Schools are supposed to be the safe havens where educators and learners can educate and learn without the worry of violence and crime. When parents leave their children at the school gates, they do so with the comfort that their children will be protected with no harm coming their way. Sadly, that's not always the case, as we note reports and see videos trending on social media of horrible incidents on school grounds. Violence in school interferes with the goals of school systems that are meant to provide education and enculturation to the younger generation. Classroom overcrowding and ineffective discipline render a school environment unconducive to learning and teaching, but permeate for crime and violence. Time spent resolving violence-related problems take up valuable teaching time and makes the work of educators more difficult. It is against this backdrop that it was heartening to witness the signing of the Safe Schools Protocol, agreement between the Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Siviwe Gwarube, and her police counterpart last month. This signaled a concerted effort to make sure our schools are conducive for both educators, learners, and all entering these facilities. This agreement is a clear vision to create safe and child-friendly schools and will ensure that all schools are linked to local police stations and supported through functional school safety committees. These committees will implement school-based crime prevention programs that address gender-based violence, bullying, gangsterism, alcohol and drug abuse, and possessions of weapons, deploying visible policing in hotspot areas, especially during high foot traffic times before and after school. Honorable Chairperson, these are crucial measures to make sure that our schools are not breeding grounds for gangsterism and crime. Children should never be involved in criminal elements, especially not at schools. Educators should have the peace to carry out their responsibilities without fear and intimidation and be the true carers and nurturers they ought to be, grooming the future leaders of this nation and beyond. Honorable Chair, the South African Early Childhood Review 2024 indicates that many ECD centers are unregistered and do not meet the norms and standards, with many practitioners working in these centers who are not necessarily qualified. This is further compounded by the fact that early childhood development training has largely been ignored in the South African higher education policy space. And to address these challenges, Minister Gwarube has undertaken and launched a nationwide drive to register and formalize ECD centers across the country by using a simpler and user-friendly online registration system. The Department of Basic Education wants every child in South Africa to have access to quality ECD program, and every program to provide three things: quality learning and development opportunities, a safe and nurturing environment, and good nutrition. Registration is the first step in making this possible. We must work to prepare leaders in this space so that it becomes easier for them to succeed in their educational journey. Many times we place a lot of energy and focus on when learners are exiting their schooling careers and prop money and resources into camps and curriculum catch-up programs. However, with this renewed focus to water the log while it's still wet is a welcome note. And in Setswana we say, Lore lo ojwa lo salimetsi. It is rather unfortunate, Honorable Chair, that the chairperson of the Select Committee failed to rise above narrow political point scoring and take this House through the work carried out in the committee, particularly on the budget and this department's performance and strategic plans. The less said about the delegate from the Patriotic Alliance, the better. Honorable Sibande, I will not fiddle and get sidelined with petty party politics. And Minister, as I conclude, and Honorable Chair, indeed, this 2025 budget vote is important as it places learners at the center, especially those in the foundation phase, where the greatest inequalities begin. Honorable Chair, honorable members, I thank you, Ke a leboga, and baie dankie.
Thank you, Honorable Mukai. The next speaker on the podium is Honorable Finis. Over to you, ma'am.
Chairperson, honorable members of the National Council of Provinces and fellow South Africans. It is with a profound sense of purpose and responsibility that I rise today on behalf of the African National Congress to support the budget vote on basic education. We stand at a pivotal moment reflecting on our journey, celebrating our achievements, and reaffirming our unwavering commitments to the future of our nation, a future linked to the quality of education we provide to our children. This is not merely an allocation of funds, it is an investment in human potential, a declaration of intent, a continuation of a struggle for social justice that began long before 1994. Honorable members, let us cast our minds back to the dark days of apartheid, when education was a tool of oppression designed to shackle the minds and limit the aspirations of the majority. It was a system deliberately fragmented along racial and ethnic lines, perpetuating gross inequalities where resources were skewed towards a privileged few, while the vast majority were condemned to a substandard Bantu education. This horrific legacy left deep scars on our society, and it's continued to present challenges even today. But against this backdrop of injustice, a beacon of hope emerged, the Freedom Charter, adopted in 1955. This visionary document boldly declared, the doors of learning and culture shall be open. It wasn't just a slogan, it was a radical blueprint for a non-racial, free and compulsory education for all. A promise of a society where every child, irrespective of their background, color or creed, would have equal access to knowledge and opportunity. This was and remains the bedrock of our educational transformation agenda. The journey has been long and at times difficult, but let no one doubt the progress we have made. The very fact that we are debating a unified basic education budget for all children in this chamber rather than separate, racially determined allocations is a testament to the profound shift we have engineered. Yet, we must acknowledge that transformation is not a single event, a checkbox to be ticked. It is an ongoing struggle, a continuous process of confronting persistent inequalities and striving for more just and equitable society. This budget vote, therefore, is not merely about maintaining the status quo. It is about sharpening our instruments in this ongoing struggle, ensuring that every rand translates into tangible improvements in the lives of all our children. One of the most impact and visible achievements for the ANC-led government, a true testament to our pro-poor policies, is the dramatic expansion of no-fee schools. When we speak of opening the doors of learning, this policy has literally flung them wide open for millions of children who in the apartheid era would have been denied access to basic education due to the family's inability to pay fees. Today, a significant majority of public schools across South Africa, specifically those categorized in quintiles 1, 2, and 3, are no-fee schools. This means that over 80% of our learners attend schools where the financial burden of school fees have been completely removed from their parents. This is not just a statistic. It represents the relief felt by struggling families, the dignity restored to households, and the hope ignited in children who can now access education without the constant threat of exclusion due to poverty. It has fundamentally altered the landscape of access, ensuring that poverty is no longer a barrier to a child's right to learn. However, honorable members, our work is far from over. While the no-fee policy is a critical success, the reality is that the needs in quintiles 1, 2, 3 schools remains immense. These are the schools serving our poorest and most historically marginalized communities, often in rural areas and informal settlements, which still grapple with inadequate infrastructure, overcrowded classrooms, and limited resources. Therefore, we commend the strides of our government through this budget, which aims to increase funding and support for all our learners, especially those in quintiles 1 to 3. This is a tangible manifestation of our resolve to move beyond simply providing free access, but also to ensure that the quality of education in these schools is not merely adequate, but excellent. This increased investment is intended to build and expand on the democratic gains of the past 30 years, created by the ANC government, who seeks to target safer, more conducive learning environments, including proper sanitation, electricity, and functional classrooms, sufficient textbooks, learning materials, access to ICT and functional laboratories and libraries, enhanced professional development, ongoing training, and appropriate support for teachers operating in challenging environments. Beyond the classroom walls, the ANC-led government has recognized that access to education is multi-faced, often exceeding beyond fees alone. Two vital programs, the National School Nutrition Program and the School Transport Program, stand as beacons of our holistic approach to learner support. For countless children in our vast rural landscapes and sprawling informal settlements, the journey to school can be an exhausting ordeal. Long walks, often through dangerous terrain or across busy roads, in all weather conditions can deter attendance and exhaust the child before they even reach the classroom. The school transport program is a lifeline for these learners by providing safe and reliable transportation. We are directly addressing a critical barrier to access. Equality Transformative in the National School Nutrition Program, providing a nutritious meal daily to over 9 million learners, is not merely a handout. It's a fundamental intervention that directly impacts a child's ability to learn. For many of these children, this meal is the most substantial and nutritious they will receive all day long. We know that a hungry child cannot learn. The National School Nutrition Program combats malnutrition, improves concentration levels, boosts energy, and significantly enhances the overall attendance and academic performance. It is a powerful example of how social interventions can directly underpin educational outcomes, transforming hunger pains into learning gains. Niemand sal besef wat is dit om te leer as jy honger is nie. We must, as jy dit nie ge-experience het, Chairperson, we must continue to invest robustly in National School Nutrition Program, ensuring its quality, reach, and sustainability, because a well-nourished body is the foundation of a healthy mind. Honourable members, our legislative framework must continuously evolve to meet the demands of the transforming society. And in this regard, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill is a landmark piece of legislation, a true testament to our ongoing commitment to social justice and equitable educational system. While President Ramaphosa signed the bill into law, the full realization of its transformative potential hinges on one critical step, the swift relief of the accompanying regulations for the minister. Without these regulations, the Act cannot be fully implemented. They provide the necessary practical framework, the detailed guidelines, and the operational clarity required for provincial departments, school, and communities to give effect to the law. Therefore, I make a strong and a direct call today. The time for discussions and consultations on the contested sections where due process have been followed, must now translate into decisive action. We urge the Minister to expedite the release of these regulations. Our learners cannot afford further delays. The full implementation of the Biala Act is a vital component of our journey towards an education system that is truly just, truly equitable, and truly serve the best interests of every child in South Africa. Finally, honourable members, we must profoundly increase our support for Second Chance Matric program. This program is more than just a second chance. It's a lifeline, a beacon of hope for young people who, for various reasons, did not succeed in their initial matriculation attempt. It provides a vital pathway to further education, skills development, and ultimately meaningful employment. We must commit to significantly increase funding, expanding the number of learning centers, improving access to quality study materials, recruiting and retaining qualified tutors, and providing the necessary psychosocial support to these determined young adults. As I conclude, Honourable Chairperson and fellow members, the basic education budget vote before us today is a testament to the GNU's commitment to building a nation where every child can realize their full potential. We have come a long way for the deeply discriminatory education system of the past, but the journey towards true social justice and redress is far from complete. Today we can realize a just, accessible and transformative educational system. Honorable Chairperson, for the EFF delegates as well as the MKP, I just want to say you can't make demands if you reject a budget. Because you can't say, I have the money, or if you have the money, you must do this, but I don't support the budget. And for the National Department and Minister, as a delegate from the start, I have a problem with this thing. If there's an issue in terms of infrastructure or anything else in the provinces, the National Department is saying, no, it's the provincial departments. But now with the eradication of the bucket system, the 93%, now they are saying it's the National Department getting that 93%. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Finis, for your input. Honorable Minister, you have heard the team Basic Education speaking in front of you. Will you please respond to their cries?
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, and also a very big thank you to the members of the NCOP. I must admit that I find the engagements here a lot more constructive than in other places in Parliament. And so I do thank you for the constructive feedback and engagement. It's also encouraging to see a wholesale endorsement, I think, of what the budget is about, the priorities that we've set as a seventh administration, and even the strategic reorientation that we've set ourselves to. It's also clear, members of the House, which members are more concerned about being part of the solution and which members are really just wanting to politicize the challenges of our education system. There comes a time, honorable members, in any country where leaders must abandon ideological narrow lagers and platitudes, roll up their sleeves and get stuck in. I can assure the members of the House that South Africans are less interested in our petty bickering in Parliament. They need their elected leaders to show empathy. They need their leaders to show dedication to the cause, and they need their leaders to work together to solve the issues that they face today. And if we can't rise to that occasion, I can promise each and every one of you that we will not come back here, because then we don't deserve to be here. We've been elected to serve. Let's do our jobs and do them diligently. Despite the insistence of some of the political ideologues, we will continue to serve with humility and diligently. The last honourable member spoke about the publishing of the BELA regulations. I think I did cover this in my speech, honourable member, to say that those regulations are going to be published within the next coming weeks. And we are committed to guiding not only the provinces, but schools and SGBs on the proper implementation of this piece of legislation. I do also find it rather disturbing that this piece of legislation, which is really meant to transform the sector, is often used to draw political fight and political infighting, even within the government. It's quite curious to me, because I wonder at what time and at what point are we going to start to put the interests of the learners first instead of our own narrow political desires. The priorities we set a year ago are being delivered with great vigor, honourable members, and I think that it bears repeating. That we want to expand access to ECD. We want to strengthen literacy and numeracy. We want to advance inclusive education. We want to enhance teacher training and school development. And we want to improve safety in our schools. Yes, honourable members, these are the priorities that we've set for the seventh administration. It does not mean that other things will not be prioritized. But if a government does not have the ability to prioritize what is important, what is doable, what is budgeted for, and what can be measured, then it risks not being able to achieve anything. So these are the priorities that we've set for the 7th administration. And I look forward to being able to report back to you as the years go by to be able to track exactly where we are. I'm pleased with the progress that we've made in just a year in delivering against these deliverables. And I want to say, we will always welcome the oversight. We will always welcome the critique, impatience with progress, and your demand for better. You wouldn't be doing your work if you were not demanding better from government. But let us not do so by politicizing what is clearly above the mudslinging realm. Thank you once again for your support of the Department of Basic Education budget of 2024-2026, and we commit to spending the people's money responsibly and ethically. And I think that's important, honorable members, and it bears repeating. We commit to spending the people's money responsibly and ethically. And whatever kind of corruption that may have existed in this department or in the provinces in the past will have to be a thing of the past. People of South Africa expect us to spend their money responsibly and ethically and make sure that we put their interests first. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable delegates. I would like to thank the Minister and the Deputy Minister of Basic Education for their participation in the debate. Also really appreciate your participation as the entire House, because you made this debate to be lively and you raised the issues of the children of South Africa first. We are highly appreciated. Continue doing that, as the Minister has appreciated that. Now we're going to have the swim swap of ministers now. Honorable Stan Jensen is in the House. You can come forward, sir. Next to, and then the Honorable Deputy Minister also must come forward. Please take the seat there.